Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for participating and registering for our Advanced TVET webinar. And part of my welcome is just to give you a brief background to the actual Advanced webinar. So just over 5 years ago, the European Union and the Departments of Higher Education and Training signed what we call the Teaching and Learning Sector Reform Contract. And that contract and that partnership was a response to specific developmental needs within the South African education, training, and innovation sector. The focus of the contract was to strengthen the capacity of the post-school education and training system, and specifically through strengthening teacher education and teaching in post-school education and training. The DHET received a budget support grant of 20 million euros to manage what was then called the Teaching and Learning Development Sector Support Program, and through this, 5 major components were supported to assist in achieving the overall goal of strengthening capacity of the post-school education and training sector in South Africa. The Advanced Diploma TVET, which is the focus of this webinar, is one of many deliverables of one of these components, which we in the Chief Directorate, Teaching, Learning and Research Development are implementing. The component is called the Teaching and Learning Development Capacity Improvement Program. It's located, the Advanced DIP rather, is located within the College Lecturer Education Project, and the Advanced DIP is actually the first initial teacher education program for TVET college lecturers that has been developed and implemented in the country. And from the number of people who have registered, I think it's 272, you can actually see the importance of this particular program and the interest it has garnered in our country. At this point, I want to acknowledge and appreciate the presence of 2 delegates from the European Union, Mr. Thomas Tiedemann, who is the team leader, governance and social sectors in the European Union delegation, and Dr. Josette Muller, who has been our constant support and advisor as we traverse the highs and the lows of implementing the Teaching and Learning Development Capacity Improvement Program. I also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Whitfield Green, the Chief Director of Teaching, Learning and Research Development at the Department of Higher Education and Training. Dr. Green played a huge role in garnering the support for the Teaching and Learning Development Capacity Improvement Program, and I would quite confidently say that he's actually the father of this particular program, giving oversight, giving support, and ensuring also that we reach our deliverables. But finally, colleagues, I want to welcome each one of you, our colleagues, our stakeholders, for your interest in the Advanced TVET webinar and for taking time out of what must be a very busy schedule for you as you wind down activities in preparation for the much anticipated and obviously necessary holidays to close up this very stressful year that we have experienced. Please make use of the chat room to pose questions as we engage with each of the sessions. We have received over 65 questions from our colleagues who registered, and we hope that through the proceedings of the webinar, most of these will be addressed. If we are unable to do so because of time constraints, please do be aware that we will respond to these via email after the webinar. If you give us about a week or so, you will definitely get responses to all the questions. Thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoy participating in the webinar and that you find value in it. Now, onto our program. Our first speaker today is Ms. Precious Sapuka. Precious is a Deputy Director in the Teacher Education Directorate at the Department of Higher Education and Training, and one of her chief responsibilities is to manage the College Lecturer Education Project, which consists of TVET as well as adult and community education and training. So without any further ado, Precious, I pass the baton on to you for your presentation and the management of the session this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for that introduction, and good morning, colleagues, again. In this session, I will give a short synopsis of the College Lecturer Education Project, commonly known as the CLEP. I will highlight key areas of activity, including the program development, research, and capacity development. I will then focus on the Advanced Diploma activity, looking at its purpose, entry requirements, as well as articulation pathways. I will conclude my presentation with a few remarks on the partnerships and collaboration that have emerged from the CLEP project. So, just in terms of covering the table of content, I will cover the programs that have been developed in the CLEP project, the research activities. I will focus on the Advanced Diploma, its purpose, entry requirements, articulation pathways, and final remarks. The key work areas of the CLEP project to conduct annual or biannual surveys to determine the qualification status of lecturers in the public TVET colleges, and then also to develop reports based on these surveys. And these reports assist the department in identifying gaps in terms of which qualifications are needed for the TVET sector. Secondly, the CLEP project supports a number of universities to develop and offer professional qualifications for the TVET vocational education and training sector, as well as the community education and training college lecturer sector. And another aspect of it is to develop quality teacher education materials. The CLEP project also supports a number of universities to conduct research in the TVET and CET sectors in where information and knowledge is needed to inform lecturer education. And finally, the CLEP supports the development of new academics to create capacity for the TVET and adult and community education sectors. A number of universities are participating in the CLEP to develop a range of qualifications, ranging from the postgraduate diploma in technical and vocational education to the Bachelor of Education in Technical and Vocational Teaching. The number of universities that are participating currently in the project are 14, ranging from traditionally research universities, comprehensive, and universities of technology. The CLEP project is also supporting a number of universities to develop qualifications for the adult community education and training sector. These range from the higher certificate in adult and community education and training to the advanced diploma in adult community education, training and teaching programs. As I stated, a number of universities are participating in the CLEP. And in terms of the current status of the programs, we have 14 universities participating in the CLEP, 9 of which have received CHE accreditation, and 4 of those universities are currently offering programs. UWC is currently offering the postgraduate diploma in technical and vocational teaching and is in its 3rd year of implementation. NMU, which was the first institution to offer the Advanced Diploma TVT in 2019, is in its 2nd year of implementation. And UP is offering the Postgraduate Diploma in Technical and Vocational Education in Educational Leadership. And finally, this year, the Tswana University of Technology also started offering the Advanced Diploma in Technical and Vocational Teaching. But as we can see, in terms of the implementation or anticipated implementation date, most institutions will start offering the program from 2021-2022 onwards. This slide really talks to some of the brochures that universities have developed in offering their programs. And I'm sure you are not able to see clearly in terms of what they're offering. And I would suggest that you contact the department. My email will be at the end of this presentation in terms of any questions that you might have in terms of the different universities offering the different programs. And I will be able to refer you to the right institution and the right project coordinator. As stated at the beginning of this presentation, the CLEP is also supporting a range of research activities, looking at the work integrated component of the TVET and CET sector, looking at factors such as the pedagogical capacity required for TVT lecturers, as well as an important development, which was the establishment of the journal JovaCert, which is an important intellectual space for the TVET and CET sectors. And Professor Joy Papir will talk more about the journal in the later session. And some of the research products that have emerged is the one from the Free State, which investigated the technical and vocational education and training landscape towards enhancing quality engineering studies, education, and training opportunities in South Africa. The other one is the curriculum framework, which was collaboratively developed by a number of participating universities for the TVET sector, looking at the work integrated learning component. I will now focus on the reason we are all here today, the Advanced Diploma in Technical and Vocational Teaching. So the program is framed on the policy on professional qualifications for lecturers in technical and vocational education and training, which was gazetted in March 2017. The program is the first initial teacher-lecturer qualification program. And as I stated, NMU and TUT are already offering the program. In terms of the policy, the purpose of the program is either as a professional teaching qualification to prospective TVET lecturers or as an in-service professional teaching qualification to current lecturers who are in possession of at least an approved 360 credit level 6 national diploma or relevant bachelor's degree. The qualification also serves as a capping qualification that enables graduates or diplomats who possess a general undergraduate bachelor's degree or national diploma to become professionally qualified as a TVET lecturer. In terms of the entry requirements, the minimum admission requirement is an appropriate undergraduate diploma or degree. An appropriate diploma or degree is one that includes enough disciplinary learning in an appropriate academic field to enable lecturing in a technical or vocational subject or field as taught in those institutions that offer TVET programs. And the underlying discipline knowledge in the prior qualification must have been studied at the exit level of the entry qualification. In terms of the articulation pathways for the Advanced Diploma TVT, a graduate of the program can proceed either into a Bachelor of Education Honors or a postgraduate diploma in technical and vocational education and training, and also to a Master's of Education as well as a doctoral degree. Just some final remarks from the CLEP project. Important outcomes of the project that I as project manager can talk to has been the collaboration that has been happening amongst the universities participating in the CLEP, but also with the TVET colleges as well as the CET colleges. From the beginning and inception of the project, universities were encouraged to collaborate with colleges in terms of co-developing the programs so that they are relevant to the sector. And secondly, an important part of the CLEP project has been the capacity building, where young academics has been brought on the project to be supported to undertake postgraduate studies in the TVET or CET sector. Currently, we have over 65 MEd and PhD students, and the majority of them, I must say, have already graduated. We would also like to acknowledge the partnerships that the universities have formed with SETAs such as the ETDP and MERSETA in terms of funding of students on the programs. We'd also like to acknowledge the participation of the SASO Foundation in the CLEP project. And finally, as Michelle indicated at the beginning, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the support and funding of the European Union. Thank you very much. At this moment, I would like to introduce Professor Wayne Hugo from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. His main interests include education and development, comparative education, and theorizing education. Professor Hugo is very enthusiastic about technology in teaching. Professor Hugo.
Thank you, everyone. It's really exciting to be here. What I'd like to start to do is just to talk about and show you some of the stuff we've been trying to do to make the TVET space that we have been working in with the European Union and with DHET to make some sense of the TVET space. It's one thing to do a qualification and to upgrade our lecturers, which is absolutely vital. But to do that, you need to make sense of the TVET space as a whole. So the question we started to ask was things like, well, what do the TVETs actually look like? Where are the TVETs? Are they in towns? Are they in cities? What do they actually do? What are the industries and the mining and the agriculture around it? Because if you're a TVET college, you're working with work integrated learning, so you have to send your students out. So what we decided to do was to try and create some kind of a resource for all of South Africa, mainly the lecturers and the students, but definitely for the public. So definitely for you guys as well, to make sense of how TVETs work, what their size is, what their shape is. And what I'd like to try and do is show you one part of that, which is a whole bunch of videos we've made available. They're all on YouTube. So you can actually go watch them in your own time. Just don't go watch them now, because I'm going to try and explain to you how it actually works. And to do that, I'm going to have to share my screen, which I'm going to do now. There we go. And I'm hoping that you can all see that. And what you have is an example of how I started to try work with Google Earth Studio. And the idea was that what we do is we start to tour South Africa and we start to make sense of how it works. And I'm going to talk to that through one TVET college in particular, the Vembe TVET College, which is in Limpopo. And later on during the break, I'll play the actual video. But I want to show you some of the thinking behind how we do it. Now, the first thing is, notice how I'm starting from the north. I want to start off from where the great migrations were of our people, moving down from Western Africa and down into this region over here, because that's the early part of the story. That's where our early technologies come from. That's where our early entrepreneurship zones were. Often what happens is when we try to tell the story, we try to imagine it from this way around. That's the way you're kind of familiar with South Africa, like that. You kind of start in the Cape and you move down. That's not the way we want to tell these stories. You want to get a sense of South Africa from a more decolonized African perspective. And what happens is when you start to do that and you work with these visual pieces, you can start to make sense of what this world actually looks like. You can very clearly see what Zimbabwe looks like over here. You can very clearly see the natural harbor of Maputo over there, which has got thousands of years of work going on there. So that's like really, really exciting. And then when you want to tell the story of the TVET college, what you do is you can then go into key parts of the zone and actually show people where the TVET college is. Like, for example, this is in the Soutpansberg, and here you have a key college. So you can actually go in, tell the story, talk about its history. But more importantly than that, you start to find out that this area was Mikado. It was a place where our African people fought for one of the last times against the Boers and the Brits. Yes.
I'm sorry, Wayne. I'm sorry to intervene, but we are not able to see your video, and it sounds very interesting. Hopefully you can just try again and start from the beginning of the video.
Okay, there we go. Share.
I'll let you know if we can see it.
There, that looks better.
Perfect. Sean, and if you could actually just maximize that video, because
yeah,
we
so
can't.
now I'm just going to go into the video now. So there it is over there. I'm hoping you can see it now. So there it is. And just to say that, so in the introduction, what I was trying to do was I was trying to show you that when you're working with Africa, what you want to do is you want to start off with this vision of Africa rather from the north. So you see it like that, rather than from the Cape. And then when you tell the story, you can start to show all the major features that we're working with. And now just to go into an example of how we're going to work with the Vembe TVET College, what happens is you can fly in, and what happens is you can actually see where the TVET College is located. And when you're located, for example, in this Mikado area, you know that this is a great area of resistance. But more importantly, the people in Limpopo and the people at this TVET College, they know the history, but this gives them like a context to see where they are and to see how they're located. And then what happens is as you fly through, you start to see some key features. Like, for example, you start to see some beautiful lakes, and then you find out that these are sacred lakes for the Vembe people. And you start to find out all the traditions, and you can fly over them as you tell the story. Now, what I want to do is I just want to take you away from this to show you how we then put this into a final product. So I'm going to move a screen to another one. And here we go. And I'm just going to play it for you so you can see what it looks like. Let's fly over the West Coast TVET College campuses. One of the best. Right, so I'm just going to pause that there so you've got a sense of what the actual video looks like. And I'm going to take you back to the production zone where we're working with it. So now we're back with the kind of actual working on the video itself. And I want to talk to some of the thinking and the research we did so that people can actually really make sense of the TVET colleges. Number one, what you want to do is you want to also introduce them to some of the key landscapes. So, for example, you want to show the Limpopo River on the one side, and you want to show some of the key features that are operating in the world so that they can make sense of it. But just as important as that, I just want to go in over here for you. What you also want to do is you want to make sure that when people see one of the TVET colleges over here, for example, this is Tohayando, this is the capital of Vembe. What you do is you locate it in relation to everything else. So, for example, I'm just going to pull out a little bit. Over here, what you can see all of a sudden is we get the natural harbor of Maputo. Now, what happened was all throughout the ages, this was a central trading zone. This was where people traded elephant tusks and often slaves. And what you can see is that our TVET college over here historically was always located in trade networks that went all the way out, not just in Africa, but very quickly went all the way up into the far eastern coast of Africa and also across to India. So you're able to demonstrate all of these things and show them in real time. Now, I just want to show you one or two other things which are absolutely astonishing about this as we were doing it. And one of them is that if you go into any of the towns or the cities, what happens is you can actually show the students and the staff that in 3D. So for example, what I'm doing now is I'm going into Joburg. And the first thing that you can see when we do the Joburg TVET colleges is you can see all the mines located all the way around. So what happens is the students get a very strong sense of the mining that's in the area if you're telling the story about the TVETs over here. But you can quickly give them a sense of what the actual location looks like by going into the actual city. So for example, if you want to tell the story and you want to locate some of the TVET colleges in Joburg, well, you can actually take them into the city itself. And what happens when that happens is you can actually fly through it in a 3D kind of a way. And I'm just moving into it. You can see it's doing the resolution itself now. And what happens is you can then see Joburg as Joburg actually exists. Now, obviously, it's still resolving itself, but very quickly you'll see that you've got a proper vision of the way that Joburg actually exists. And I'm just going to change the preview quality to low so that you can see it more clearly. So here we go. Here comes Joburg for you. And what happens is to show the students you can actually fly through Joburg to the campuses. And more importantly, you can show them where their college is located. For example, there's one college which is located right next to a mine dump. And when you show the mine dump, you can then talk about the history of mining and how TVET colleges relate to mining. So that, I think, gives you a sense of it. And what we then did was we then made a video for every single TVET college in the country. So what you can do now, if you want, is you can go to YouTube, you can select a TVET college, and what it'll do is it'll give you a history, a politics, an economics, a sociology of what the TVET college space is actually like. And I'm going to go back to the screen now. And that gives you a sense of one of the projects we've been working on to ensure that as we start to improve the lecturer qualifications in the country by focusing on the TVET qualifications, at the same time as that we provide resources for everyone in the country, but especially the lecturers and the students, to make sense of this technical and vocational space.
Thank you, Professor Hugo, for that riveting presentation. I think it is clear in terms of the passion that you have for technology and its use in teaching. And I think it would be important for students to understand the background and the history and the contextual realities of the TVET sector. And for me personally, maybe at a later stage, it would be interesting to have feedback from the students in terms of how they experience this, kind of teaching, using the technology that you are building in the program. Thank you very much. At this stage, I will introduce Michelle Mattei to introduce the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Precious, and thank you, Wayne, for that presentation. I apologize that we had some technological hitches there through no fault of the Mail and Guardian, but I do hope that everyone will be able to access the YouTube links for more interesting presentations on the range of colleges that Professor Hugo and his team have actually focused on in terms of giving more information. It's my pleasure this morning, colleagues, to present to you Mr. Thomas Tiedemann. Since September 2020, Mr. Tiedemann has been serving as head of section for governance and social sectors at the European Union delegation to South Africa. He was born in Germany and holds a Master of Science in Geography. Mr. Tiedemann has also been working in international relations and development cooperation for more than 20 years. He started his career working on food aid and food security in Ethiopia, and since then has covered a range of sectors, including agriculture, forestry, health, and education. Mr. Tiedemann has worked for civil society organizations, for the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for German International Cooperation, that is GIZ, and for development consulting firms. His career with the European Union also includes long-term assignments in the EU delegations to Malawi, to Ethiopia, to Eritrea, and to Uganda. Mr. Tiedemann, thank you very much for agreeing to present, and I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me and see me. I had some connection problems earlier, but it seems to be fine now. Representatives of the Department of Higher Education and Training, universities and TVET colleges, colleagues and friends, good morning again. It's really a great pleasure for me to join you this morning and to say a few words at this special webinar focusing on lecturer professionalization within the technical, vocational education and training sector. And I was actually quite excited to see that video of Professor Hugo, having studied geography myself. That was quite a nice introduction, seeing the video. Education, of course, plays a pivotal role in helping build inclusive and tolerant societies and in equipping young people with the skills they need to be resilient and socially engaged citizens. And because of its importance in South Africa, education features very prominently in the European Union's development cooperation strategy with South Africa. As you've heard in the introductory remarks by Michelle, the European Union collaborated with the Department of Higher Education and Training in 2015 to design what was called the Teaching and Learning Development Program, which is sort of the umbrella under which many different initiatives have begun, and some of which we are discussing today. So this program focused on improving the quantity and quality of teachers in all education subsectors. It included educators in the early childhood sector, the schooling sector, including special needs, the technical and vocational education and training sector, and also the community education and training sector. The Teaching and Learning Capacity Improvement Program, or TLDCIP, which you are all very familiar with, enabled the large-scale rollout of many projects and collaborations with university to address all of these areas. And today, we can celebrate the achievements in the College Lecturer Education Project while discussing the professionalization of lecturers in this sector. On behalf of my colleagues, and as was said, I only very recently joined the team, so I speak on behalf of the entire team here at the EU's office in South Africa. I would like to congratulate the department and the universities on the many achievements in this TLDCIP component, making a very valuable contribution to this important sector, such as the development of curriculum frameworks for various diplomas and advanced diplomas, the development of numerous new qualifications, such as the Advanced Diploma in Technical and Vocational Teaching, and also the successful launch and continued publication of the JOVACAT, the Journal of Vocational, Adult and Community Education and Training, that was already mentioned earlier. Technical and vocational education and training is an area of growing importance for South Africa, and hence also for the European Union and our collaboration with South Africa. Apart from the TLD program, we are engaged in various other initiatives, collaborating with the Department of Higher Education and Training, and also the Departments of Basic Education and Labor to implement the Education for Employability program, or E4E. E4E is aiming to support government efforts in improving the quality of basic education, vocational training, and then job placement services from early childhood through the teen years until the acquisition of skills needed for the world of work. In another EU-supported program, the Capacity Building Program for Employment Promotion, or CBPEP, as we call it, there's often the abbreviations, we facilitated the TVET Tracer study and concluded that vocational education will likely play a very important part of the response to the fourth industrial revolution, and has a key pathway for South African youth to enter the labor market. And then also our headquarters approved in 2019 a pilot VET mobility scheme project involving South Africa and 11 other countries in Western and Eastern Africa and Europe. This Overstep project is a joint alliance that aims to promote collaboration between VET providers and share best practices between African and European VET systems. The project also focuses on improving teacher training, skills, and pedagogical knowledge, amongst other things. TVET is hence an area of interest and collaboration of many of the European Union member states in South Africa, not just the EU delegation, recognizing the importance of this sector to improve skills. For example, my country of origin, as you may have guessed from my accent, is Germany. And in Germany, we take great pride in our so-called dual system for technical and vocational education and training, where students typically spend part of each week at a vocational school and the other part at a company, or they may spend longer periods at each place before alternating. And there are many initiatives to adapt such concepts to the South African context. Overall, TVET is an area that the European Union and many of our member states are engaged in already, and actually that we may be engaged in more in the future in our combined Team Europe initiatives. To conclude, throughout these interventions, the central theme is improving the quality of education. And there's no doubt that quality education for all is an imperative for South Africa's sustainable development. It is intrinsically linked to skills development, employability, and then economic growth. Quality education is therefore an elevator towards transformation and towards a more equal and cohesive society, as well as an investment towards social justice. Quality education for all means leaving no one behind, including the students in the TVET sector. On behalf of the entire team here at the European Union in South Africa, I would like to wish you well for your important deliberations today and to recognize your invaluable efforts to bring these initiatives to fruition. At the EU, we're truly inspired by your work and we look forward to continue our collaboration. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for that very interesting and also very encouraging presentation to us as part of the South African arm of your international or global forays and engagements around TVET. I think it's very heartening for us to hear about the, for me particularly around the social justice imperative that you have mentioned, and also around how TVET can play a role in strengthening the economy in countries. And as you know, South Africa at the moment, because of COVID, etc., we have a long way to go towards ensuring that. One of the questions that we received from the registration process was around the fact that how sure could we be in our development of the TVET programs that graduates would be able to start their own businesses and so contribute more effectively to our economy, but also for them to be able to employ other people. And you know, in that way, we help towards the eradication of poverty for the disadvantaged. I'm hoping that throughout the course of this webinar, we might be able to get some answers to that, but I do suspect that it would be difficult for the presenters to answer such a question as to how we can ensure that graduates are able to become entrepreneurs. So thank you once again. I move into the next session for today, which is the Vocational Pedagogy Mediator Dialogue. Very interesting focus here on vocational dialogue, colleagues, particularly because, as you know, both in teacher education for schools and in TVET and early childhood development, there is a tension between the pedagogy and the theory and the practical application of this in the workplace or in schools. One of the questions that I note as well talks about that, about how it is that universities can teach the the technical qualifications when they are just academics? What about the actual practical side? And so I'm hoping that in this webinar, Professor Papier, Professor Machato, Professor Papier, Dr. Naiker, and Professor Wayne Hugo will be able to give us an insight into the vocational pedagogy that they have been utilizing and to conceptualize the work that they are undertaking in the project. Thank you, Professor Papier.
For that good overview of the Advanced Diploma, Technical and Vocational Teaching, which I think is a really important qualification for the professionalization of our TVET college sector. And I think it's been a long time coming, but the groundwork has been really solid. And so we really salute all our colleagues in TVET who have been working so hard to make this qualification a reality. And I'm not going to be saying too much now, but I want to hand over to Professor Hugo and to Dr. Naiker to just briefly speak about how they conceptualized the vocational pedagogy that became part of the Advanced Diploma TVET. And then we want to draw some learnings and look at some of the synergies with a broader pedagogical field around that. Because I think vocational pedagogy is by no means a done deal. It is still the topic and the subject of a lot of debate, theorization, and to understand how and why it might be different to the pedagogy that many teachers have undergone to date in their qualifications for teaching, and what makes the vocational sector, what should make it particular, and how is it special, or how is it different. I think the TVET sector has been the stepchild to some extent of our education and training system, and by gazetting a suite of qualifications in the Policy on Professional Qualifications for TVET College Lecturers in 2013, the Department of Higher Education and Training signaled that it was really time that TVET college lecturers came into their own, that this professional cohort was recognized for the extremely important work that they're doing in education and training today. So Wayne, I'm going to hand over to you to sketch a bit of your process, and then to Vasi, and then I will bring together a couple of comments from what you said. Thank you.
Thanks, Joy. I appreciate the introduction. And what we're really going to try and do in this kind of a session is try to talk to, is vocational pedagogy a kind of a unique pedagogy? Is it different to teaching in a school? And then the other key question which we have to ask is, what should it look like in South Africa? There's a real risk if we kind of go across the world. And I mean, Germany is a classic case with its dual system, which is one of the world's best systems. And what we try to do, for example, is we immediately adopt it over here. And then we suddenly find that there's a huge difference in the context between a place like Germany and a place like South Africa. So what I'm going to start off by doing is I'm going to share my screen again. And this time I hope I get it right. So everyone shout at me if I don't. So there we go. It is now sharing as far as I know. And I just want to make sure we get that right. And so for me, the first real big question we have to ask ourselves is, what should vocational pedagogy do in South Africa not England or Great Britain, not Germany, not France, not Russia, but South Africa. And there, for me, we boil it down to two very simple questions. Do we slowly improve the existing practice of our lecturers on the ground? Or do we radically transform the existing practice and put in something new, exciting, worthwhile, based on the latest current research on what should be done? Now, just to say that there's a big history behind this. When we did the whole transformation of school education over 20 years ago with outcomes-based education, what we tried to do was we tried to take the best practices in the world at the time, going on in Australia and going on in places like Ireland, and we tried to plonk it into this country, a radical outcomes-based education. We tried to completely transform the way that teachers were teaching. And what we found was we really struggled with that. It didn't work because the teachers had too much to learn and to extend themselves. And I think we're facing the same question in vocational education. And in order to take that forward, I'm just going to go to a baseline story. In order to take it forward, we firstly have to get the simplest picture of what vocational pedagogy would involve. And I would suggest it revolves around three different types of knowings that the TVET lecturer has to be able to work with his students. The first thing he's got to do is he's got to be able to show a know-how capacity. He's got to be able to show that you can actually do the thing involved. You know how the thing works, and you're able to use it in some kind of a practice. And I think that's absolutely key in the vocational pedagogy space, because we've got to bear in mind it is directed towards a vocation. It is directed towards work. It is directed towards a workplace which is expecting certain skills to come out. But the second thing is there has to be a knowing that the student has to know about the thing. The student's got to know what it is, what it does, what the different types of it are, what the different parts of it are, what context it sits within, what the variations are and how it is. And that's a second key type of knowledge. And the third thing is, I call it know it. In other words, you have to have a taste for it. You have to have some experience of it. You've got to actually be in it and actually do it to get a sense of how it works. And what happens is with TVET pedagogy, when you go into the TVET lecture rooms, what you find out is you've got a huge component of the knowing that side. In other words, you've got lectures which happen in a classroom with a textbook. That's very much what is happening almost 90% of the time in our vocational colleges. The students are there, they're sitting in a classroom, there's a lecturer at the front, there's normally some kind of overhead, and what they're doing is they're teaching to the textbook, and then they test that textbook. And that's a lot of the work that's done in the TVET colleges. But there's also a practical component where the students, whether they're doing engineering or business, they have a chance to actually go and practically practice what it is in some kind of a context. So for example, let's say you're doing office administration. There'll be a place where you can actually go into a kind of simulated office and actually try and practice what it is to do that office administration work. And then finally, there will be a third component, which is called work integrated learning, where the students and the staff go into the actual workplace and actually do the things that they're involved within. So I think that's the baseline of it. Now, to go to the final slide, before I actually show you some examples of what's going on in the TVET college, because I want to show you examples of people actually teaching, because I think that's where the interest lies. But I need to go through one more slide before we get there. And so what we've done is a whole bunch of my students, with the help of the European Union, have basically got into a situation. I'm just checking because I want to make sure we're there. What we've done is we've done a whole lot of research, and what we found is that the lecturers are following the textbooks. They're directing their teaching to exams and assessment. There is rote learning going on, and it's a procedural thing. Do this, then do that, then do that, then do that, and often the lectures carry on like that. But when we dug deeper, what we found out was that actually they're often working with parts of something. In other words, they're actually telling a story. What is the part? What if it's an engine? What are the parts of an engine? And then they go into what are the different types of engines that you're working with. And there's often then a purpose of something. Why does it do what it's doing? And then they show examples. They actually give an instantiation. They actually say, this is what it looks like in practice. And then this is how it works. This is what you do. And then they place it in a larger context of the workshop and the discipline you need in the workshop itself. Now, with that as its base, I want you to bear that in mind and see if I can show you a video now and take a look at it and see if you can see where the guy shows parts, where he shows types, where he does the purpose of something, where he instantiates it by giving you an actual example, then he shows you how it works, and then he places it within a bigger context. And what I'm going to argue with is that rather going for all sorts of theories about education, what we should rather do is we should rather go into a situation where we try to understand what the guys are actually doing. So here's an example. Now, this is taken from a DHET project where they've recorded a whole bunch of lectures of some of our better TVET lecturers actually teaching our students in COVID times. So because they couldn't get to the lecture, what happened was they then provided the lectures online, which the students can actually watch. And I want to start off by just showing you some stuff. This is going to be a theory part, and take a look at what this guy does. I'm just going to increase the sound, sorry. I'm just going to increase the sound quickly.
So the topic will be topic 4, which is oxyacetylene cutting. Right. Let me explain firstly what is oxy. In full, it's oxygen, and the other one is acetylene. So oxygen is the compressed air in a cylinder. That's oxygen. Acetylene is a gas. It's a gas that's combusting with oxygen to do the cutting. Right? Oxyacetylene cutting is extensively used for cutting material for required size and shape. It's also used by the welders for joint preparation for the plates which are thicker than 16 millimeters. You can also use it to remove unwanted metal or defective weld. Right, we'll look at the components of oxyacetylene. So our first component we are going to discuss about is acetylene.
Okay, now I'm just going to pause it there, and you can immediately see, and this is happening across like hundreds of videos that we've watched. What the guy does is he starts off by introducing what they need to do, like the outcome. And then what happens is very quickly they go into what the components or parts of something are, or what the types of something is. And then they unpack it for the student. They say what it is and how it works. I'm just going to move a little bit forward for you so that you can get a sense of what's going on. I'm going to keep on playing.
Identify it by its color. You see the color of this one is red. If it is red, it means it's acetylene. So the acetylene have got 2 gauges. Here's the gauges of acetylene. It have got 2 gauges. The one is showing what is inside the cylinder, and the other one is showing what the working pressure. Right. The gauge.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that there. And that is the theory lecture that we actually have, where he goes through what all the components are, how it actually works, and what its purposes are. And then what will happen is, let's go to the second lecture, which he does, and you're going to notice an immediate transition. You're going to see that all of a sudden now he's not in the lecture room, he's now in the workshop, okay? And now he's going to do the demonstration of how it actually works.
Observe what the safety as we are in the workshop. In the workshop, firstly, if you enter the door of the workshop, you must wear a full PPE. A full PPE means is your overall, a metal and light and your metal and flame retardant overall.
So now I'm pausing it there again to say that in all the more industrial engineering ones, there's a strong focus on safety in the workshop because it's really dangerous there. But I'm just going to move on a little bit so you can get a sense of how he then works with it.
The oxygen is open, right? It shows what the content, this gauge shows what the content, what is inside here, right? So now I can open what? The valve of the oxygen so that I can adjust what? The working pressure. I open the valve, then I can adjust now the working pressure to 200. To 200, right? I can close now the valve, right? Now the torch is ready for operation. I'm ready now to operate. Let me now light the torch. Firstly, if you are lighting the torch, you open up what? The acetylene. Everything is acetylene, acetylene. You open up the acetylene valve. I open up the acetylene valve for a few seconds, then I light it up. I adjust it up until the smoke is minimal. Then.
So I'm going to stop sharing at that point, and go back into StreamYard. I'm hoping, yes, you can all see me over there. And to say that, firstly, if you want to go look at those videos, if you want to go check them out, there's over 100 or so videos. All you have to do is type in TVET lectures, DHET, and COVID-19. And what will happen is these videos will come up, and they're not just engineering videos. They're videos of people doing business projects, doing office administration, doing English and mathematics and life orientation, doing all the kinds of trades with really good examples of what our current practice is for our lecturers. And what we certainly want to do as a part of our project, this attempt to grow the TVET lecturer into an excellent lecturer, we want to make sure that we start off by understanding what they are actually doing and work from that as our first base. But once that's in place, obviously we then also have to have a deep appreciation for what's new, for what's possible, for what the different zones are that we can work within. So we also have a sense of innovation and a sense of movement forward and creativity. And to take that part forward, I want to hand over to Vasi Naika.
Thank you, Wayne and Joy, for the introduction. And I want to get back immediately onto the samples that Wayne has used as teaching material. When we refer to the video clips, we could see very clearly that the TVET lecturer demonstrated the skillful activities like the use of materials, tools, and even abstract concepts, which is called routine proficiency. This, of course, requires time and practice. Therefore, we can celebrate these lecturers for their efforts. The key aspect in the ability of TVET lecturer is to be resourceful. I agree with Wayne's comment. There's a need to sometimes stop and think to respond to the situation at hand. That takes us to the understanding of vocational knowledge and pedagogy. To understand vocational knowledge and pedagogy, we need to understand what vocational education is. According to Lucas and Webster 2010, vocational education is defined as the provision of materials, activities, and teaching that is designed to prepare people to function at a special level, in specific roles, in a context which is usually paid employment. Vocational pedagogy is regarded as a science, art, and craft of teaching and learning vocational education. Therefore, the lecturer needs to develop the skills of craftsmanship, and he must also enjoy what he's doing in his space. It can be seen that the TVET lecturers have a distinctive role to play, not only in understanding the subjects with a sound understanding of its pedagogy, but to be practically up to date with their vocational know-how, and this must be relevant to the workplace and also the industry concerned. The changing nature of skills required for the 21st century requires TVET lecturers who work in TVET colleges to have what are deemed as 21st century skills. These are characterized as skills such as the ability to learn new key issues quickly, the ability to use modern day technology within the workplace, and according to DHET 2013, these 21st century skills are not only essential for lecturers only, but they are also critical for their students as well, because foundationally, these skills increase employability and mobility in graduates. The competence in the use of ICTs and smart technologies is increasingly becoming a prerequisite skill that all students are required to have when they enter the world of work. However, this skill can only be acquired through exposure, interacting, and working with ICTs. If we are to expect students to be able to use smart technologies at work, they should acquire these foundational skills and the knowledge base that they will need within the TVET space prior to entering the world of work. Most importantly, ICTs and smart technologies play a fundamental role in improving the quality of teaching and learning that takes place in the college sector. This was cited in an article prepared by the DHET 2014. Every FET lecturer requires pedagogical and technological knowledge as an important competency in order to produce alternate instructional teaching methods in the TVET sector. I believe this is where TVET lecturers should be positioned. Let us look at the roles of ICT in the process of learning and teaching in TVET colleges. ICTs can serve various roles during the learning and teaching process in TVET colleges. They can be used as a delivery mechanism. This occurs when technology is used as an instrument in the endeavor to deliver course content. The utilization of ICTs during the teaching process can also assist in explaining abstract concepts and make abstract concepts more accessible and tangible. Simulators are a good example of ICT and smart technologies that is often used in TVET colleges. This is mainly done to address the safety concerns during the initial phase of training and also to offset the cost of expensive equipment. Remember the video that Wayne showed us? The safety aspect could have been done with the simulator, or the simulator would have reinforced the safety aspect when welding. On the other hand, technology can also be utilized to create communities of practice that cultivate the culture of sharing and exchanging information. This leads to the formation of communities of practice amongst lecturers and also among students that are studying towards the same or similar vocation. Communities of practice normally encourage the sharing of resources, best practices, advice, teaching, and learning materials. Equally, ICTs can assist in facilitating a transition in the role of the lecturer in the classroom into that of an instructional manager. This transition could potentially lead to lecturers to being mediators that guide students through personalized learning pathways, identifying relevant learning resources, creating interactive learning opportunities, and providing insight to students. The 21st century lecturer uses virtual learning methods in his integration. Virtual learning is a new way of learning using an online platform. This method is not the same as making the content into digital format and then projecting it for teaching and learning. Virtual learning on the online platform is much different, especially how to implement technical vocational education and training 4.0 learning. The brief explanation is that curriculum material must be embedded into an online teaching platform. A good online teaching platform must be able to facilitate and accommodate the teaching and learning of lecturer or educator pedagogy, which allows the student to visualize complicated processes, to see the different operations, functions, and the relationship of TVET learning materials. Now, at WITS, we hope to achieve this, that is the training of the 21st century TVET lecturer through the new technical TVET Advanced Diploma qualification. The entry requirements of this qualification was already stipulated by our Deputy Director, Precious. So we are available to answer questions regarding the Advanced Diploma. And I'm glad to mention that we are an accredited, the WITS School of Education is accredited to offer this new qualification. Thank you. Over to Professor Joy Paper, who will take us through or wrap up the session.
Thank you so much, Wayne and Vasi, for those very interesting takes on vocational pedagogy and how you envisage bringing that into the new Advanced Diploma. I'm just also glancing over at the comments in the chat, and I think one from, there was a bit of dialogue between Paul West and Sammy Koza about what the pedagogy of the TVET college lecturer should enable students to do. And the one comment I think Paul West makes is that if students can demonstrate their skills and their assignments are useful, they could be demonstrating their value, which might make them more employable or self-employable. And I think Paul and other TVET colleagues, we need to then take that step back, which is what we're doing here, and to say, what does that mean? What does that goal for our students mean for the training of a college lecturer? Because remember, this qualification is about exactly that, training our college lecturers who are initial teachers. This would be the first teaching qualification in a TVET, specific to TVET that they're doing. And so what is it that you want them to take away with them that informs their practice, that helps them to think about ways in which exactly that goal that Paul and Sammy talk about should be achieved? And so if we draw together some of the principles that Wayne and Vasi have been talking about, and go back to my earlier question about how and what about vocational pedagogy is different from, on the one hand, the extreme, maybe going back to the 60s and 70s, methods and ways of training school teachers in what was called the fundamental pedagogics, where essentially the teacher was the fount of all knowledge and the students were there to listen and to learn. And they were essentially students who were blank slates. So I think in what Paul and Wayne and Vasi have been saying is that certainly that is not the premise from which they move. And so these alternative approaches, particularly the ICT, preparing college lecturers for the 21st century, in an initial teaching qualification, the job of that qualification is then to help those very teachers to make choices about the ways in which they can achieve the goals of a vocational education. And so it seems to me that a vocational pedagogy is quite a hybrid that draws on a lot of newer ways of learning and teaching. So, the grand theorists like Piaget and Bloom and so forth were largely used in many school educator programs. They still have many valuable lessons today to learn. But essentially, there are many appropriate pedagogies for young adults to be oriented towards working lives. And by working lives in its broadest sense, whether employment in a formal context, whether self-employment, our college lecturers need to be working towards that goal with the goal of a vocational education in mind. And so it's Vasi referred to Lucas and I think Claxton earlier. And Bill Lucas, in fact, has a very interesting paper called Vocational Pedagogy, What It Is and Why It Matters. I think the why it matters is quite important for our discussion because there are a few key steps in developing that vocational pedagogy. One, I'll just mention two of them. The one is to be clear about the goal of vocational education. And I think we will all agree that the goal of a vocational education is different to the goal, perhaps, of a school academic qualification. And second, we have to understand the nature of our subject. So the nature of the subject would also drive you in particular directions in terms of how you teach that subject. And third, maybe I'll just mention a third, understand the college lecturer, that is, understand the range of learning methods that may, taken together, provide the best blend of methods, of teaching methods in their classroom for their specific subject to achieve the goal of vocational education. So I think that's quite an important overview of where and how and what a vocational pedagogy for vocational teachers needs to achieve. And so if one just looks at very broadly some of the principles one could draw out of what Wayne and Vasi have said, is that in a vocational pedagogy, we are speaking about authentic learning as far as possible. How authentic can one make the learning experience for our vocational students? Other principles could be activity-based learning, using problem-based learning. It's not about negating knowledge or content, but it's about how and in what best ways can one integrate and bring together that theory, that knowledge component of what you're teaching, like the gentleman in the video was doing when he introduced it at the outset, before showing them the actual component. How do you integrate that theory and that practical? What are the competencies that enable an applied knowledge to be gained by the student. So, you know, to go back to an old kind of statement that was made by Barnett some while ago, it is a pedagogy that faces both ways and should therefore have a mix of situated knowledge, which is kind of your orientation in the workplace, your understanding of workplace practice and the skills and the knowledge needed for that, and of the disciplinary knowledge. And that's not always the easiest to achieve, and so one always has to consider what the balance is of that. There are other theorists that speak about vertical and horizontal knowledge. But essentially, I think what we've seen today, what we've heard today, is about the duality of vocational knowledge and knowing. That there's a specialist component, which is about your occupation that you're moving into, that you're preparing the student for, that the lecturer as a trainee teacher has to understand. But that trainee teacher also has to have a specialist knowledge of teaching and learning. And so I think that's where we need to, that's where we distinguish between the vocational students in schools and what we're teaching vocational teachers to do. And essentially, we are teaching vocational teachers to be able to make those choices about how they're going to approach the teaching and learning of these subjects. They need to have a stock of knowledge and understanding and practice about what the best ways are to teach their subject. And in the Advanced Diploma TVET, TVET teaching, which is an initial teaching qualification, which is training a teacher for that sector. And it's not assuming that the teacher doesn't have anything to offer, that they come in also as someone who knows absolutely nothing about teaching. No, it acknowledges that in our TVET college sector, there will be many lecturers who have many years of experience, but they don't have the formal teaching qualification. And they will be able to add their experience and their knowledge of their situation that they've gathered over the years and be able to enrich the qualification that they're doing. So, so I'm going to stop there. I think that's what my job was to do, was to try and bring some of those principles together, synthesize some of what Wayne and Vasi were saying. And I think maybe at this point, we can look at some of the questions. All of the questions, as Michelle said earlier, will not be able to be answered in this forum. But there are some that we may be able to refer to. And I'm looking at the chat right now. I think there's a question by David Modiba. Hello, David. Oh, now it's gone. Where did that question go? Yes. With the current cohort of lecturers who have now been introduced to the use of LMSs for teaching, learning, and assessment, how can we capacity build them in practice outside the advanced diploma? Wayne, Vasi, do you have any comment on that? I'll just pick on some of the questions in the chat, and some of them can be referred if you'd like. Any comment on that one?
Yes, I can certainly kind of just talk to it a little bit, but more in a contextual way. And that is to say that one of the huge initiatives that's currently happening is through organizations like TENET. They are busy laying down cable all the way to every single TVET college in the country with high-speed internet, which is freely available and huge capacity. And that's been really exciting, and hundreds of millions have been spent doing this. But now the questions become something very much like what David is asking over there. And that is, okay, well, all this internet arrives at the door of the TVET college. So how do we use it? What are we going to do? And to say that the first zone of entry is to always firstly aim at some kind of a professional qualification, which centers the focus and enables a higher status, professional status to the actual lecturing profession within the TVET college space. And then once that's in play, you can start to build all sorts of other programs around it. And we're not only talking about the CETAs coming on board and providing extra programs, which all the universities are doing. So for example, right now, we're involved with Elangeni and a couple of those TVET colleges in the possibility of training their lecturers up in how to use ICTs. And that's done in an online way with all the Elangeni lecturers, and it's sponsored by CETA or it's sponsored by the TVET college. So there's a huge space for those short courses. That's number one. And number two, just to say, I also see in the questions, is that this is a level 7 qualification. Once you get this qualification as a TVET lecturer, you can go on to honours in education and development, or in technical and vocational education. And from that, you can go on to a master's. So it's an access zone into the whole world of higher education, and making sure that the TVET space also becomes a research space and a space of innovation for new ideas and new ways of doing things.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks so much. Vasi, do you want to add anything, or you want to take one of the others as we go along?
I think Wayne has covered that quite elaborately.
Thank you. Thanks, Vasi. Yes, Gregory Masondo, what is the possibility of bringing the ETDP CETA on board for funding of the Advanced Diploma? From your lips to their ears, Gregory, I hope. I think that there should be a very good possibility of that, and maybe it's something that going forward, the DHET can also help us to facilitate in a more systematic way, because I think it's certainly sorely needed. And this job of training college lecturers is certainly falls within that ambit of the ETDP CETA, I would think. Some of the other statements are just comments. A.B. Ripple asks, in addition to the formal qualification, how can the private sector contribute to the development and increased competence of the TVET lecturers? And that question actually ties in very nicely with Melanie Stadek. Hello, Melanie. How do we ensure the buy-in from industries to host the Advanced Diploma TVET students for industry-based work integrated learning component of the program? So those two go together, I think. Vasi, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely there will be a collaboration between industry and the universities, especially for the work component. And I think they are coming on board. Each university has the responsibility to negotiate this collaboration between industry and the institution. So from our side, definitely there will be participation from the corporate in the program. Thank you.
Thanks. Nozipo says that more CPD short courses in TVET should be offered by universities or lecturers or students who want to be lecturers. And I think the interesting part of that comment is that she says exactly what we were pointing to earlier, that those who study teacher qualifications need training too, because they might have been studying at a time that vocational teaching in its own right was not really recognized as anything different to the way one deals with school children in schools. So that's a very, very good point.
Can I say something, Joy?
Sure.
To say that it's a really good question. And one of the things I suppose we've got to try and imagine is you've got to picture an organization like SACE, which is now currently almost on steroids, trying to ensure that the teaching profession has highly qualified teachers who are then recognized for what they do. They're tracked to see if they're actually doing their work decently and properly. They're rewarded for it. And there's a continuing program of development for those teachers to make sure that as a profession, teaching grows. And one of the things we've got to bear in mind is that we're at the very first stages of starting to try and consolidate the way that the TVET CPD courses work in a way where it becomes professionalized under a central organization which can take the profession forward. And this is where the European Union and DHET have to be congratulated, because what they've done is they've set like a marker, a first zone which we can aim at to get the whole process underway and running forward.
Thanks, Wayne. Vasi, did you want to say something there?
No, I'm fine. I think we covered that.
Okay, just to point out that Selo Satusha makes the point that the ETDP Sector is indeed funding lecturers for the Advanced Diploma TVT at Nelson Mandela University right now. And so we do acknowledge that. And I think that it's certainly going to be worth building upon as the program rolls out across other universities. Mickey Katia also asks the question about CPD of TVET lecturers. Yes, I think, Mickey, that we've been, I think a lot of the preoccupation to date has been with actually getting the formal full qualifications up and going, so that in terms of the policy of 2013, that there are institutions, there are universities offering the new qualifications. But there is a strong recognition that the CPD framework needs to be finalized, and so that college lecturers also have access to shorter, just-in-time, quick turnaround training as well. Takalani Rachilumela, will our end diploma have direct access to the Advanced Diploma TVT? And is provision to offer the bridging course, is there provision to offer bridging course to accommodate those who might not meet the minimum entry requirement? That's an interesting question for the universities offering the Advanced Diploma. Vasi, at WITS, you're going to be of next year. I don't know how you deal with that.
Yes, it depends. We had a chat around the end diploma, provided that the candidate has also got his trade. That means he must be an artisan with an end diploma. At WITS, we are also thinking of applying the RPL, and there is a possibility that we're going to look at these type of qualifications, because TVET lecturers come with a host of qualifications, and I know from my head of department side, we are not going to leave anybody behind. WITS is going to definitely assist these lecturers to come on board to get professionally qualified. Thank you.
Can I say something there as well?
Sure.
I think it's a really excellent question, because there is a gap there. So you have a situation where you used to have the old, I think it was called the ACE program, the Advanced Certificate in Education. And the problem is, I think that's at level 5, and this qualification is at level 7. And you have a situation where you have this gap where I think we are going to have to look at all sorts of programs which pull some of our current TVET lecturers across into this zone. We definitely are missing out a portion of the TVET college lecturer sector, And it doesn't help to offer a full B.Ed program, for example, or B.Tech program, or B.TVET program, where they can go all the way from first year all the way through to fourth year, like a B.Ed program, and learn to become a TVET lecturer. There are still gaps in the system, and we've got to work towards those gaps in the longer run. So I just want to highlight that it is a key problem that we still have to address fully within the current setup.
Thanks, Wayne. I just wanted to go back. I see someone had asked later there. Anna Moshia wanted to know about A.B. Riffle's question, which has to do with the how can the private sector contribute to the development and increased competence of the TVET lecturers. And maybe we must make the assumption that AB is from the private sector. I'm not sure, but definitely that is one of the key issues that could strengthen that advanced diploma TVET. And so Melanie has also asked about the work integrated learning component, because we need as many workplaces as possible to come on board to offer that kind of workplace exposure experience that college lecturers may need as part of this qualification. And maybe I should ask Vasi, in terms of their rollout next year, how they will be dealing with the will component of the advanced diploma TVT.
Thanks, Joy. I think from our side, with the first cohort of enrollment, they are in Majuba College, and I think the industries surrounding that college have come on board in terms of the world component, and the teaching experience will be evaluated at the college, because these colleges are quite well-resourced, and they have the infrastructure like industry.
Mm.
So that's a move from our side for the initial intake.
Can I add something there?
Yes, please.
Just to say that Majuba is a great example. For people who don't know, it's in Newcastle, and the whole Newcastle area and around Newcastle is full of different industries and people who are actively engaged with the TVET college in the work integrated learning zone and for the students. So it's a really well-functioning college. And in those instances, I think the working with the private industry works almost seamlessly. They've got a whole division dedicated to making sure that that happens. But there's a whole bunch of TVET colleges in this country who've got almost zero contact with the industries around them. They're often located in rural areas where there isn't much industry around it, except for extractive industries like mining. And what happens is often the mines are not that interested in working with the TVETs because they are worried about the quality of the products coming out of the TVET college. So you've got these huge issues which are currently going down. And I just want to highlight that it's a very good question because it's not currently solved within the TVET sector space. In fact, it's a huge problem on both sides. Quite often, the private industries ignore the TVET colleges that are in the area because they don't rate them. And on the other side, often the TVET colleges themselves are so busy with just the process of trying to get the students through. And often the lecturers don't have any experience with any industries because they've come straight through the TVET themselves. They've kind of done the TVET course and then they've gone on to become a lecturer in the course. And all they do is they replicate that course. So the connections between TVET and industry in a whole bunch of our TVET colleges is incredibly weak. And that has to become a priority as we start to professionalize the lecturer qualification and insist that they learn how to do this actively.
Mm. Yes, I think Wayne and Vasi, I think you're quite correct that in many colleges there is or there are, appropriate technologies, or there are dedicated spaces where lecturers can get access to workplace practices. But as I said earlier, I think there's no substitute for that authentic working environment. And so I think as far as possible, that should be the goal, you see. And in fact, A.B. Riffel has said that he is from the wholesale and retail sector, which has a vast number of workspaces in our country and could offer all manner of work experience or work exposure to lecturers and students alike. And so really that is a sector, along with many others, that we have to try and tap into perhaps more systemically, and see how we can get employers and industries to come on board. And maybe this is an important first step, that people out there understand the importance of this qualification for our vocational sector, and that they can see themselves playing a role in it. So I think going forward, we need to have a really concerted strategy about bringing on board as wide a variety as employers and participating businesses as we can, to be able to help us make this qualification as authentic as possible for our college lecturers, and they in turn will be able to afford a more authentic learning experience to their learners. So I'm sure that our colleagues from the DHET are taking a very strong account of that right now, and that will be a topic for another more dedicated discussion. I think we actually reached the end of our time in this session. Ibrahim Peters, I see a question from you. Will the lecturers at UOTs and universities who have to train the artisans to become educators have a good understanding of how to transfer the required artisan trade knowledge and skills? I think that's quite a big question, Ibrahim, and there are a number of others coming up in the chat. Could I ask that we take that offline, because we have to wrap up our session now for the next group to have their moment. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Wayne and Vasi for really interesting insights, really interesting presentations, and to wish you both very well as you move forward with the new Advanced Diploma, and our other institutions, of course, who will be rolling it out in the new year. So thank you very much to our participants and all of you out there who have tuned into the session. I hope that you have found something of value in it, and we look forward to reconnecting with you and catching up again to take some of these issues forward. Thank you very much.
I think, thank you so much again, panel, for that engaging session. It was quite provocative in some instances. It gave us a lot of insight. It was also very interesting to hear that there is gravitas in the industry to become involved in the Advanced TVET. And for the participants, your questions and your comments are much appreciated. I do hope that as we go into session 2, where we have the 2 universities who are actually implementing the Advanced DIP, their representatives will be speaking about the experiences of conceptualizing that Advanced DIP, about the pedagogy, about will, digital portfolios, etc. And I'm hoping that some of the questions that have not been answered in the panel will be discussed by our colleagues from TUT. and Nelson Mandela University. We are now heading for a very short break, but during the break, Professor Wayne Hugo will be showing one of his amazing videos, but focusing on the Vembe TVET College. So if you can grab a glass of water and join, or otherwise stay for this riveting session, I would urge you to please do so. So thank you, Wayne. You can go ahead with your video.
Cool.
We will resume in 10 minutes, colleagues, if you are moving away from your desk and your laptop. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll share screen it, and then you can make of it what you want. If it doesn't play, I'll just play it off YouTube. As you can see, here are all the videos from the different ones. So you can actually just type in my name, Wayne Hugo, and then once you've done that, you can type in whatever TVET college you want, and that TVET college will come up with the video on it. So here we go. So we're going to fly over and through the Vembe TVET college campuses located in the Vembe district in the Limpopo. I'm just going to increase the sound for you. I just want to spend a minute talking about the picture we've got in front of us before we fly in. You've got the classic Limpopo owl, which you can see, and we have all the Vembe campuses really on the left ear of the owl. That is the Zoutpansberg, which we'll come to just now. But if you look above that, high above that, you can see Zimbabwe, and running right through the middle of Zimbabwe is the Great Dyke, which is a very similar phenomenon to what's happened in the Limpopo province, where you have ancient rock which eventually got cracked through the middle by rich igneous rock, and that's where all the Zimbabwe mines are. But the other reason I want to talk about this zone is this is where the great Bantu migration, which came all the way from Western Africa, and this is one of the great settlement places of the Bantu people initially. Over 1,000 years ago, they were staying in this area in a place called Mapangubwe, and eventually when that place faltered and eventually broke away, that's when the Great Zimbabwe Kingdom was set up, and also when the various assorted chiefs and peoples set themselves up in the Zoutpansberg in various assorted ways. And that's the part of the story we'd like to tell. And then obviously you can see Mozambique on the right-hand side with the very natural harbor of Delagoa Bay. And this was where massive amounts of trade has happened historically over thousands of years with China and India and up into Arabia. So it really is a place of rich, complex history. So don't ever, when you think about the Vembe district, and we're going to talk sometimes about the Venda Kingdom, don't think about them as somehow one race of people who are living in an area. It was never like that. It's a complex set of groups living together in continuous meeting together and struggle. And we're going to fly straight into the early Venda Kingdom, situated at a place called Desata. This is where the great Mikado and the great Tohanyando lived. and survived. Now we at the Mavoy campus, and Mavoy campus actually was the old Finya Wanda Technical Campus. And it did things like the NCV, Office Administration, IT, Electrical and Civil Engineering. It offers native programs in civil engineering, business studies. And so it's a worthwhile campus set in the heartland of the old Venda empire and kingdom. And I'll talk to that a bit later. But to give you a sense of just how rich this place is, you can see the old Desarta Museum and Kraal, which is where the kings lived on the left-hand side. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to fly over the hill to Lake Fundutsi. Now, this is a lake of enormous cultural importance to the Venda people. It's a place where the Domba ritual happens for the maidens, and it's a place of the great white serpent. So it's a fertility place. It's a fertility set of rituals which happen over there. Later on, you'll hear about how the Domba became a central part of trying to set up community education in this area. Now, we're flying to the Tengwe campus, and this is the old Tengwe High School. And this campus also offers the NCV, also in business and office administration. It's got civil engineering and plumbing. It's got farm management and clothing production and lots of learnerships, because initially that's what it was set up to do. It was set up to offer a bunch of learnerships, and it's now graduated from a kind of like a satellite campus to a fully fledged campus. And what you can see as we kind of travel over this area and circle the campus is that the Benbei district is basically comprised of very poor, number one, but also number two, very young people. So over 75% of the population is 35 years and under. A whole lot of them, over 50% of the youth are unemployed. That's 98.7% black, right? With about only Louis Trichardt being the place, which is kind of white. We've just kind of pulled back so you can see the Kruger National Park. And then we're going to fly now into the Shingwedzi campus. And this is the old College of Education, and it's been restored lately. It's the residences have been restored, so it's now fairly much more state-of-the-art than it used to be. And you can see how nice the campus actually looks. It offers the NCV in business and engineering. In terms of the NATED, it offers financial management, business management. It's got civil and mechanical engineering. So it's another campus which offers most of the NCV and NATED programs in the engineering and management or business studies components. Now, as we pull back over the Shingwedzi campus, I want to pull back a little bit further this time, just to give you a sense of the full spread of what we're working with. And you can see the Luvulu River and Dam on the one side, and then we're going to go across to the Makwerela campus, and that's in Tohoyandou, the district capital, named after one of the first great Venda chiefs who managed to establish a massive sphere of influence all the way from the Limpopo to the Crocodile River. Now, this Makwerela campus is one of the first campuses in the area. It was the first technical college set up in 1963. And really, it has a great residence system. It offers a whole range of NCV and NATED courses. It's situated in the area of Sabasa, and that's an area of proud struggle and the attempt to create community education against the missionaries and the state. And there's a whole bunch of schools over here, like Mapapuli High School, which is named after the attempt to rather set up an academic education, but an academic education which was still traditional at heart. And they were partly successful in this struggle. And it's a really key question we have to ask ourselves within the TVET space. Is, do we just provide an education which is the NCV and the NATED courses for everyone and anyone? Or do we start to try and really identify what the community needs and set up programs for the community inside the community? And as we go through the course and the videos, we'll talk to that issue more and more, especially when we're in a situation where after students get a TVET qualification, often they can't find work anyway. So we just pulled back from the central office, which is also in the area of Sabasa. And let's pull back quite hard and quite far so we can get a sense of the Soutpansberg in the distance. And what we're going to do now is we're going to fly over to the Tishimani campus. Now that was the original missionary campus, which got set up by the missionaries, and the community colleges were set up against these mission schools. And this was the first teachers' college in the area, and that's what caused a lot of struggle, because the teachers had to go to the missionary setup space to become teachers rather than the community space, which was trying to hold onto the rituals like the Domba rituals for the girls. Now, that said, this Tishisimani campus is a very popular campus. It's the second biggest campus now. It was really started up in 2011, and it offers a full set of NCV and NATED across engineering, marketing, finance, office administration, and tourism. And let's pull right back and get a sense of the Venda area. So you can see the Mavoy campus, where we went to firstly, and you can see the Makwarela campus, which is located in the capital. And we're going to go to the Mashamba campus now. But let's pull back so you can actually see on the one side, on the left, you'll see Palaboa below you, which has got the Mopani Southwest TVET colleges. And you'll see the Letaba River, the Groot Letaba River, running off to your left. You're just going past it now, and that offers you the Letaba colleges. So the Vende colleges are located in this area around the Soutpansberg. And now we're going to the Mashamba campus. Now, this is actually more of an agricultural campus that was set up in the early 2000s. And this one offers primary agriculture, farming management, and it also offers a little bit of travel tourism and office administration. And there's been a real struggle in terms of subsistence agriculture in this area. It's incredibly poor, especially with the old Laboa homelands being in this area and the compression of people here. And subsistence farming, which was the stock way to do things, has started to become increasingly hard to do. And on top of that, this area really is drought prone. It goes through periods of some rain and then drought and rain and drought. So it's quite hard. Now I'm going to pull back as we move through. We're going to now go to the Louis Trichardt campus. And the way I want to pull back is I want to pull back over the historical locations which are located right near Louis Trichardt, because this is at the center of the struggle. Because what happened was when the Boers and the British started to defeat the chiefs, they forced them into these locations to live together in these areas, still named after some of the chiefs like Haravela. And what we're now doing is we're flying into Louis Trichardt. You can see we're flying over what the Afrikaners call the Hangklip Mountain, but actually it's really the Songozwi and the Luatama Mountains. That's what they should be known as. And that is where the Venda kings set up their second capital, because they could see the whole area from that and know what was going on. Now we're going into Louis Trichardt, to the hospitality campus. Louis Trichardt was an old trekker who moved through this area. And there's been enormous controversy over whether it should be called Louis Trichardt or Makada. Now, Makada was the last standing kingdom against the British and the Boers. He managed to last all the way through the 1800s. In fact, he was poisoned with brandy, and it was his son who was defeated. And what's happened is there's a real big struggle over whether that place should be called Makada or Louis Trichardt. Personally, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it should be called Makada, but certainly the Afrikaners, who make up 1% of the population of the Vemve district, felt strongly that it should be called Louis Trichardt. Now we're pulling right back across the other side, because I now want to visit the Musina campus. But before we do that, I want to kind of track the Limpopo River and the Shashe River, which you can see on the left, because at the center where those two rivers meet is the ancient civilization of Mapangubwe and K2. We're going to go fly right over the copy where it was situated. This was a class-based society where you had the chief at the top of the hill, and then various assorted other people, nobility, and then the workers as you move down. And on the one side, you can feel quite uncomfortable about it being a very unequal society where the food used to be carried up to the kings, and the rich ate gorgeous food and the poor ate terrible food, as they've done from the excavations. Yeah. But the key thing is it also started to set up a very strong division of labor, because they had enough crops and because they were working with livestock and because they actually had mastered how to work with iron and other skills. What happened was it became a highly developed society. And we have to ask this question as we move into the TVET history and sociology of the relationship between, on the one side, inequality, and on the other side, between the division of labor and the development of skills. So it's going to be a central question, and we'll use the Mapangubwe example to try and think that through. But we also have to recognize the fact that long before the Boers and the British came here, there were ancient civilizations already in the Iron Age, already doing all sorts of division of labor work, already setting themselves up in all sorts of ways which we should be proud of and we should know about. And that's why currently, that's in the, I think it's the grade 3 or grade 4 curriculum. All I knew about was the Great Track. And we're now coming up to the famous, some would say, infamous Bike Bridge with its border economies. The first bridge was built in 1929. Look, it's like half a kilometer long. Must I carry on? Michelle, must I carry on?
I think that's good, Wayne.
Cool.
I think that's good, Wayne. Thank you very much for that. It's a good taste, I think, for the participants to actually search for your name on YouTube and then find all those amazing videos that they can refer to. I've also seen a comment from someone around how we can access those videos and how we can access those videos. So we will definitely make sure that we send some information through to everyone. But also on that note, there was another question around how participants may access any of the information that we have developed in this project. And I'm very happy to tell you that it's all on open access. That's one of the conditions of the grant. So across the Teaching and Learning Development Capacity Improvement Program, every artifact, every product, every resource, every example of assessment is freely available if you require that, and you can contact Precious, our Deputy Director, who will assist you in that regard. We move into the second session now, and so we're moving from something quite theoretical in terms of the vocational pedagogy to some stories, some sharing, some discussion around the actual practical implementation of this program. We're very happy to have Neville Rudman and also Helena Oosthuizen from Nelson Mandela University, which was the first university in the country to offer the Advanced Dip, TVT, and also Professor Magato from TUT, who has started offering the diploma Advanced Dip this year. Gerda Venter is from the Department of Higher Education and Training, working in the Open Learning Directorate, and she will be the moderator for this particular session. So over to you, Gerda.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm very, very excited to ask my questions today because it's quite valid, and it's also, I think, we all will learn from these experts. Now, first of all, before we start, I would just like to introduce to you my highly skilled and experienced channel. Now, first is Mr. Neville Rudman. He is a lecturer at Embry College. Then we have Prof. Moses Makgatu, and he is from the lovely Tshwane University of Technology. And then last but not the least, the beauty of the team, Prof. Helena Oosthuizen from the Nelson Mandela University. Thank you so much for availing yourself and share your experience with us today. I will be directing my questions to one of the members, but do feel free to give extra input. Now, my first question will go to Mr. Rudman or Neville. That is, which curriculum choices did you have to make when you were in the process of designing the Advanced Dip program?
Yeah, thanks, Gerda. I think to just provide context to your question, it's important that we just look at the knowledge types that are prescribed by the policy that need to be integrated into this qualification. There are four knowledge types that are required, and that's the foundational learning, which of course is the psychology, philosophy, sociology, history of education, where we expose the lecturers, new lecturers, current lecturers, to those knowledge fields that as it relates to education. Then there's the biggest section of this is the pedagogical learning that is required. About 40% of the qualification is pedagogical learning, where we take the students from general pedagogy to a more specialized, and ultimately the earlier conversation we had around vocational pedagogy. That is the goal. We need to get them to practice a workable vocational pedagogy. The third learning type would be the situational learning, where they get to understand the context, and then the final one would be the practical learning, another big part of the program. And all of the above points towards this component. Everything we do must supplement practice at the end of the day, because this is about becoming a good practicing teacher. Each module we develop must address the question, so how will the theory from this module be relevant to the student's practice? So in that context of what the policy requires of us to do, at Nelson Mandela, it was quite easy to pull that into our institutional values, because I don't think you can write a qualification, you can create a qualification unless you do it within the context of your own institution. So at that stage, the Faculty of Education at Nelson Mandela had just come out of a 4-year process of exploring a humanizing pedagogy. So it was not strange that this qualification should be the first one to be written in this sort of mold of being drafted specifically within a humanizing pedagogy context, about student voice, about lecturer authenticity, it's about safe context, a whole host of principles that we established around that. And once we had a qualification that we could nest within this humanizing practice, we then developed a number of golden threads that we sort of felt would supplement this qualification. The first one was, of course, that Nelson Mandela University is rooted in the African continent, and we are pretty much an African institution. And although we use resources from all over the world, we try to view them through an African lens. And so the concepts of Ubuntu and Ukama came through very strongly when we interacted with material. Sustainable Development Goals, 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals were central to our qualification, and they make guest appearances throughout the qualification. Of course, we work towards 21st century skills, critical thinking, creativity, all of those. And then COVID came along, and I guess, the shift is now to flexibility, resilience, and a different range of other skills that our lecturers need to have. And of course, technology towards artificial intelligence, understanding that technology has to be a golden thread. I want to end off now, because I don't want to hog the space, give Moses a chance also. I just want to say that we needed to begin to understand a vocational pedagogy, and I really enjoyed Wayne's presentation earlier, because he brought some real big truths home in this process, and Vasi too. Thank you, guys. I think we need to start working together and collaborate more. Get out of our silos. For us, it was important to develop a pedagogy where work is curriculum. It had to be about work. And we found, Vasi and Joy spoke about Bill Lucas, Professor Bill Lucas. He wrote what I regard as a seminal work, along with Lucas Spencer Jackson in 2012, called How to Teach Vocational Education, Theory of Vocational Pedagogy. And that really was foundational for us in our work. And when we connected the dots of that one with what Schulman wrote in 2005 with regard to a signature pedagogy, where we could together with the students, explore their own discipline as they move into the work that Lucas gave, and I'll share a bit more of that later, but with the word when they define what is the best signature pedagogy for their discipline. And this is where the differentiation comes through very strongly. And I think Joy referred to that, it's not about us telling them how to teach their stuff, it's really about creating the spaces and the narratives where they can explore what works, what is good, what is the signature of their pedagogy. That's me done for now.
I see you're very passionate about this topic. Can I ask any input from the two other panelists? Can I go on to the next question?
Yeah.
So my second question will be to Prof. Magatu, and that is, what operational choices did you have to make when you were in the process of designing or implementing the advanced program?
Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Gerda. Yes, we also followed the same processes of underpinned by the policy, as Neville said as well. First, in our choices of subjects, which include fundamental electives as well. Now, when it comes to actual implementation, the processes in our university after a program has been developed, it then goes to various committees, and the next committee to implement it practically was to take it to the committee for prospectus, which a certain form has to be completed. After that has happened, it becomes a public document, that prospectus of that advanced diploma TVT, and that happened around 2019 towards the end of that year. So in that way, all participants from TVET colleges were then can see a public prospectus of the advanced diploma TVT, which allows them to apply online or come to the university where necessary to make an application. And there is a registration office that does that. And our task will be to accept by looking at the qualification of an individual to see whether the person qualifies, as it has been mentioned that admission requirements is an diploma. So from there, we will then look at the number of students that has applied, and we look at them and we start to say, we have got so many students that applied for advanced diploma activity for the first time in history in South Africa that we use such a policy to come up with a unique program. Then from there, we then draft a timetable that was to be implemented around April. And in this case, I must mention that, Gerda, that it is a 2-year part-time Saturday classes. So we will then come up with how many Saturdays, which is actually informed by the policy in terms of credits that we should come up with. And as a 2-year, we will have a first year, we'll have a second year. And in that, during the policy, we develop modules to cover each and every per year. So a timetable was drawn in early 2020 for 2020 program that should be attended by the TVET college lecturers. So that timetable was drawn, and we were about to see the students practically, physically, from somewhere April Saturdays. The timetable well drawn by another member of our staff. But as we all know, to our surprise, around March, we were told that everything should shut down. So we were looking at that timetable and say, how are we going to see the students and start to teach this wonderful, interesting program with so many modules? There are actually not many, but there are 7 per first year and the other 6 second year. So we were all amazed to say, how are we going to teach these subjects? Then during the course of time, while we were in the serious lockdown, level 5 and 4, we then each, with the support of the university telling us how to do it, we then come up with strategy of teaching those modules of the advanced diploma TVT, of which all students were waiting. So we had about 56 students in the formal registration of this program. Then we started to come up with a way. By the way, that time we didn't know how we're going to contact the students who have registered. Then we have to find out through some communication, WhatsApp, to say, let's use what the TET emails to contact the students. And we looked and searched from registration offices. Eventually, we got a Gmail account of the students. And I started to say, okay, for my subject that I've allocated, for example, as a program manager of this program, I had to allocate some modules to other lecturers. So I had 2 of them, and the other lecturers has got 2 as well. I think we are all 4 lecturers in this case. So I then started to invite students online using a Google Invite. One of the first time to use that online platform, and I have to search, I have to learn a lot how to do that. So indeed, having those modules, I started to see how can I present those modules to the students. Then I started with my module called TVET, Technical and Vocational Education Studies. Then I started to present it to them. The first time there were very few students after my invitation, but as time goes on, around June, May, June, July, they started to grow, and we started to teach each other. I started to teach them. And as I said, it was my first experience. When I started first time, I was so amazed that I present things and no one talk. And I said, but is it going through these things? So I invite them to please talk. Let's interact in this presentation. It's not, so everybody was shocked. The students were shocked and said, what is it? But then eventually, slowly, through my technique of making them to talk, we started to dialogue around the modules in the form of unit standard. And then towards the end of my modules, and which later I invited other lecturers to do the same thing, and they started to join, and I advised them how to do that. The end result was the assessment. I then put together the activities inside each unit module, of that module, to say, okay, there are activities inside each module, then assessment were created out of that. And as I say right now, they are still continuing with that assessment. Now, slightly using the COVID-19 rules, we see them partly, but yes. So we are continuing with the advanced diploma modules. It wasn't an easy thing, but I'll come back to the questions, the discussion when I talk about the will. But yes, we are currently going through that. It's not easy, but it's very interesting. That is the implementation of advanced diploma TVET.
Thank you so much, Prof. Makgatu. It's very interesting, your feedback. Now, my third question I'm going to ask. Neville, do you want to say something?
Sorry, Gerda, can I come in on that? I just also wanted to talk about operational choices we needed to make. I think it's important for universities who are considering to develop this qualification. There are three key elements to the operational choices one needs to make. The first one is that collaborations are key, and we heard this from Wayne and them also. The fact that this is a collaboration between DHET and the EU is already, that is the original thing that made all of this possible. When we started, we needed to engage with TVET colleges, and Vembe was the first. We had Port Elizabeth College and East Cape Midlands College in Port Elizabeth. They were on board. They were actually part of our development of the framework, and they had input in the modules. But then Vembe TVET College found us, and they kicked our door down. They wanted in, and I wanted to latch onto that what Moses mentioned earlier about, we were blown away by the interest. You could see there was a great hunger for this type of qualification in the country. So collaborations are key. We had collaborations with all the colleges. In fact, they would introduce a venue for us on their campus. They would provide the hardware, technology to receive the technology, and they would even put a technical person in place for us to provide technical assistance. We also had collaborations with other universities, but I won't go into that now. The second thing for me that is key is technology. Technology is key, and NMU was very proactive the moment this thing started happening. And they took a 100-seater venue and they turned it into a broadcast unit. So we had students, local PE students, come into class and you would lecture them, but the classes would be live streamed to 6 other campuses around the country: West Coast, Mfolozi, Vembe, Coastal KZN, and so on. And we're using Zoom technology. And of course, we had the Moodle platform. So technology is all about this. And what we were trying to do, we were trying to role model to our lecturers. One of our mantras at the time was, no TVET lecturer must stand in front of a TVET class unless he's got technology backup, you know, and his classes are advanced through technology and so on. And then the last idea that I believe as an operational choice one needs to make is you know, Tinto in 2008 famously said, access without support is not opportunity. We can't accept students in unless we fully support them. And with the techies that I spoke about earlier, the technical assistants, we also had facilitators in class. In the distance sites, campus support structures available, NMU online library was available. So all of that was in place. And so it's about collaboration, technology, and student support. Thank you.
Thank you, Neville. Anything else from Prof. Oosthuizen? Or can I go over to my third question? And that is to you. So, Prof. Oosthuizen, my third question is, what strategies did you have to follow on the implementation of WIL?
Sure. Save the hardest question for me. Just a point of clarity, I just have to say I haven't quite made the prof grade yet. Neville said to me last night, shoo, look at this, you've been promoted, so I'm not quite there yet. But the implementation and with the WIL now, okay, as Neville has now mentioned from NMU's side, there's a number of people who want access to the advanced diploma and the interest is quite great, but we have restricted it in certain ways that we have presented it. And as he mentioned, that the WIL and the college-based learning, which we then split in college-based and to work-based learning, is key to the whole process. And when COVID hit us, pre-COVID, we had plans, and then COVID came and our plans had to change, and had to change quite dramatically, because from the university side and management side, it was decided that the students would not be exposed to an environment that they could not go to the colleges, they could not go into industry. They weren't allowed to anywhere until we got to level 1, which meant that we were looking here at October, and it would actually seriously impact that we might not be able to complete the qualification for the year. So what we did was, and then DHET, they introduced the choices module for the, I want to say, the undergrads, which we then looked into, and we found that some of those principles and some of that module, which was developed by the department and then WITS, we could actually use for our students as well. So what we did was we enrolled the TVET students in the choices module that was administered by WITS, and we adapted the assignments for TVET purposes. So they basically had 3 modules which they needed to complete, which was a little bit more work for the students, but it did imply that we didn't have to go out to sites and we didn't have to get assessors, because as we mentioned, we were running in 6 different sites. So we needed to appoint people in the off sites that they would be able to go and visit the students, which we obviously were not then able to do. So we enrolled the students in choices, and then with the assignments that they had to do on our side as well. So they had these 3 modules that they needed to complete. The work-based learning was a little bit more complicated in that obviously it's industry-based, but then because of they weren't able to go there as well. Now some of the students, they full-time employed, they're not full-time lecturers, they're full-time employed, so they didn't have a problem with that. Same with the college lecturers, they are full-time employed at the college lecturing. We just did not go out to assess them or look at that. So part of the things that we need to put in place is, as Moses mentioned as well, is an RPL strategy. that we need to get into place for future reference in case we get into this again. But we managed to complete our work-based and our college-based using those three different modules which we had. And I'm happy to say, I saw just now they told us we only have 10 minutes left. So I thought I do need to mention this. We started running the program in 2019. So we actually have our first cohort graduating at the end in December, on the 17th of December 2020. And of a group of 260 possible final years, we've got 187 graduating December, 21 of them cum laude. And then we have a possible further 50. We've got a last module outstanding, which we will address in January and February, so they could graduate in April. So we're looking at about a 90% throughput rate, which is quite tremendous given the year that the students have had and we have had. And I do need to mention on a sadder note, with the war and whatever, we did lose 3 of our students to COVID, that they passed away. And we've also had a number of our students that have reported that they've been really, really sick and they've been hospitalized and whatever with COVID. So it really has not been an easy year for the college-based learning or the work-based learning in that respect. I think, I'm not quite sure if I've covered everything I should. Neville, did I cover everything? Nod your head if I did. I think that was as far as the college-based and work-based learning go.
Moses, anything on your side?
Yes, just as I said, that will is one of our modules in our program. So I want to come in strongly on the will and partnership. Yes, as it stands now, we also do have a challenge, and the challenge can be addressed by, together with the DHET, to call upon all the role players in the will so that the students can get authentic learning experience. Because not only is with industry, we need to strengthen the partnership also with colleges, TVET colleges, the CET, Community Education Training Colleges, as well as industry. That is a job that is still outstanding for us, because without dealing with that very correctly, we are going to have a poor will in the program, and the quality of advanced diploma activity will be really compromised, because we have 2 will module, first year college-based, second year also college-based, but in that very second year, there is for the first time industry will, which they have to spend at least 4 weeks at industry. So we're still looking out how are we going to deal with that. But fortunately, we forged a little bit of a partnership with colleges to say, let's come together and address that with your students, with the college workers, to say, what are the partnerships you have with the industry so that we can forge it. But we need to strengthen that and increase partnership and drop through many mechanisms to pull the partners in industry to work with us. That's the challenge that we are having with regard to will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elena, out of time?
Okay.
Just very short.
Friend, just that is one of the major problems that we also had with the partnerships between industry, between the colleges and things. So we also piggyback on the colleges, but also on the, I want to say, the practical, the engineering courses at the university. We're also piggybacking on their relationship that they have with industry.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to wrap up because we ran out of time. So I would like to just thank all our members that you participated today. I've learned extreme amount, and it's wonderful to see how that you are experts in your field and that you know that you're talking about. So thank you very much for joining. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gerda and colleagues, for sharing your experiences with us. I don't see any questions or comments in the chat, so hopefully everyone is quite satisfied with what you've said, or they might want to add additional comments as we engage further in the webinar. Gerda, it's over to you for your presentation on the Advanced Dip TVT.
Thank you, Michelle. Just want to share the screen from the beginning. There we go. Okay, so today, as Michelle introduced me, I am Gerda and I'm currently working for the National Open Learning Directorate. Now, I'm extremely proud to be part of this initiative because today's topic is extremely close to my heart. And the reason why it's so close to my heart is because I'm working in this sector for nearly 25 years, and I've worked on the curriculum side. And now in my new position, I'm working on the technology side. To be honest, I think after today's discussions, I think I'm bringing a Christmas gift to all institutions, but I will announce it later on in my presentation. So I hope it's a Christmas gift, by the way, to all of you. Now, what I was asked today that I will give a brief overview of the online Advanced Dip program that the National Open Learning Directorate designed and created with the assistance of the University of Free State and SADI into a self-directed, high-quality online program that can be or adapted or adopted by any institution. So we say it is live. We can still change it according to our needs. Now, one of the objectives of the National Open Learning Directorate was to capacitate TVET lecturers through an open learning program, and the program that was identified or because of the demand was the Advanced Dip program. Now, if I'm going to give a short overview of the project plan. Now, the project plan was approved by the Director General on the 29th of April 2019. And the idea was to develop a project plan that is very detailed, where we say we are going to create or design open learning materials for 8 courses aligned with the curriculum content. And that we called our phase 1. I will later speak about the phase 2. And then the 3 main outcomes of our project plan was, first of all, to reach the project milestones within the agreed timeframes, and then COVID happened. So we had a tiny little bit of COVID sneezes, but it's all sorted out. And then we had to look at the design process per course because it's an NQF7 and we need to pitch it appropriately so that if we open up the content, it's on a level that everyone understands and that it's pitched in the correct format as well. Then the testing of the sections of the courses, that was very vital, and that came after the courses were designed. Now, I'm giving you a quick overview of the material. In order to achieve the outcomes of the project, we had to put down key elements on what this content must look like or can do when it's self-directed learning, either in a distance blend or a distance or a blended learning mode. Sorry. Now, as you can see, the credits is 120 credits. We only did phase 1 up until now, and you can see the 9 outcomes. What was important to us? The one was we set up development teams. Now, the University of Free State were contracted to design these content, and we made use of the Ideas Lab. Then they contracted SADI, and SADI was the contractor or the provider that was writing this content for us. And I must say it's very, very well written. It's high quality. It's pitched appropriately. And the way that it was designed by the Ideas Lab is phenomenal. Then we looked at what must this digital material look like? What is important about it? Then we said the third one is self-directed in a university-led context because it's NQF level 7. Then, very, very important, when we look at the fourth point, it's SCORM packages. So the universities can fit it into a qualification. You don't have to make use of the entire thing that we've created or put on the LMS. You can cut and paste according to your needs or the needs of the institution. Then the content is a OER, and as you know, open education resource that you can make use of, and it's free of charge for you. And then we also said contextually relevant to South Africa TVET. And I found that there is sometimes a bit of people, a misperception on what is occupational and what is vocational. So you will find that the method, the terms that we use sometimes, or the words we will use, is wrong. And we've tried very hard, because it's the TVET lecture that we speak about optional subjects and not, for instance, electives. Then the design to form part of the Advanced Diploma in TVET, but also to be adopted or adapted by universities. And then we looked at the bandwidth limitations that we currently have. I know there's TENET and the Saban project, etc. But we also said, let's try or give the students the opportunity to work offline. And then we said, the document or the modules need to be SCORM compliant so that multiple web browsers can make use of it. Now, I know as an educator, the first question that people will ask, and everyone else that's listening will ask, is, how did you quality assure it? How did you align the course? Where did you find the information from? How is it licensed? And the quality assurance, I can say, is the modules are not accredited or quality assured by the Committee for Higher Education, since the quality assurance process will be applied to the individual universities. So we call it a pick and choose. And here, for instance, I know in the TVET sectors, you will actually apply to offer a new program, and then you, as that TVET college, will go through the process to get approval from the Department of Higher Education and Training. Then how is the course aligned? It was aligned with the policy on professional qualifications for lecturers in technical and vocational education and training. And secondly, with the guideline, it was aligned with the guideline 2016 curriculum framework for the Advanced Diploma in Technical and Vocational Teaching. Then the copyright, well, the copyright is held by the Department of Higher Education, but it's an open license. So you can download it and you can amend it or adopt it according to your needs. In the processes that we followed, when I started on the 1st of August 2020, I was totally new. I know Tandeka is also listening, and she was totally new from the University of Free State. And we had to really fast track the process because we were extremely eager to start with our phase 2. The beginning of 2020. So what happened was Sadie developed the content, they submitted it to the Ideas Lab. The Ideas Lab then designed this content. I took the content, I've uploaded the first draft on the NOLS. I've made an entire program out of the SCORM modules I received with introductions and certain information in it. And then we gave Sadie another chance to moderate the final content. So what they did was, in the last 3 weeks, they gave us feedback, working through every single module. I know Mirela and Tony, you are also listening, but they went step by step through this content and they quality assure it. And I'm happy to say all was submitted on the 5th of December, uploaded, 100% ready to be used by institutions. And that's why I'm saying I'm giving you a big present today, or sharing good news. Then the progress of phase 1, here you can just see with the progress we are speaking about This is when we ended, 5 December 2020. We speak about the 52 credits and also the 8 outcomes of the modules that is ready to use. And the modules have the summatives in it, they have the formative assessments in it as well. Then the way forward. Now, phase 2, as you know, we would like to start in February. The contract was drafted, it was submitted to the Department of Higher Education and Training, and that consists of 58 credits. I know that the 58 credits, we speak about 7 modules, and those 7 modules will have their 2 optional subjects in it and also the will component. And again, I'm saying a pick and choose because ladies, think about this. When you go to a boutique, now you can choose your handbag that matches your outfit, that matches your shoes, and that's right for you. And this is the same. This is the same thing that we can do now at institutions. We can create something online that we can do totally online, or we can have a blended learning approach. And I would like to end off by saying we need to bring learning to people instead of people to learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gerda. Much appreciated. I wonder if you could answer a question from my side, particularly because we often are hearing about universities or the department developing qualifications, but without collaborating with the people on the ground. So that is particularly the case with the TVET colleges. To what extent has your project interacted with, collaborated with, and asked for comments and reviews about the modules from our colleagues in the TVET colleges?
Michelle, oops, there's like a funny sound, but in any case, let me try and answer. Marela can also, she will also explain to you what happened is they actually got the writers from the TVET sector. They got writers from I know one of our writers was Dr. van der Bijl, that passed away from CPUT. So we had a big amount of extremely experienced writers, but we also gave the TVET colleges, like for instance Valsburg College, they gave input in this qualification. So it's not something that just happened. It's something that was well thought through in order to get the best product.
The comments now, and we do have just a few minutes left. There's a question from Ibrahim, which you might be able to answer, or Neville or Professor Machato. Ibrahim Peters asks a question regarding language with the higher diploma in education. Is this an advanced diploma, or is it something extra? Is it equal to the existing HDE which she has? So I'm not sure about the clarity of that question, Mr. Peters, but if Gerda or any of the other colleagues may be able to answer that, I'll just give them an opportunity. Otherwise, we will take it offline and take discussion outside of the forum. So the question again is, one of the lecturers that is teaching language with the high diploma in education, is this advanced diploma something extra, or is it equal to her existing HDE which she has? I'm not clear whether the lecturer is actually a TVET lecturer or not, but colleagues, can you make sense and attempt a response?
They just need to unmute themselves.
Okay.
Maybe coming in very briefly about the question. It depends whether the HDE is on which NQF level is the HDE. I remember it's the old qualification. We first have to determine what is the new level of the HDE or revised level of the HDE. Then we'll be able to tell whether she is a prerequisite for advanced diploma TVT.
Okay, I think that's sufficient. Another question just before we move on to our student voices is with regard to RPL. The participants are asking to what extent do the implementing universities consider RPL?
I think mostly with regard to teaching practice and workplace-based learning. There's ideal opportunities. You've got lecturers in the TVET sector who are academically highly skilled. They're just professionally unqualified because they do not have a professional teacher's qualification. And they've been teaching for 20 years and they are very good lecturers, so there's great opportunity for RPL practice to be employed there. Also, I do know that the TVET colleges have been really sending their lecturers into industry, commerce, business over the last number of years. And if a lecturer joins the program and has a very close connection with the industries that are served by their qualification, and they can provide evidence of that and the normal processes, then I think it's a very real opportunity to apply RPL practices.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Neville. Gerda, in terms of your wonderful gift as Mother Christmas, Paul West wants to know where the materials are available for downloading.
The material is currently on the LMS, the NOLS. We are launching the NOLS at the end of February. But I can ask my very important boss if there's some way that we can share this because it's done. I am testing it at the moment just to see, is it working well, etc. And then it's ready. So I will get back to you on that, and then work something out that the colleges can get hold of it.
Yes.
Michelle,
On that note, yes, Neville, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's a question to Gerda. I'm asking the question this time, Gerda.
Neville?
I'm currently at study of Faculty of Education, which is a private institution, and so would that be available also to private institutions?
It's open. It's an open education resource. It's for everyone. That's why I'm saying it's Christmas.
Thank you.
Well, I think we have to thank the European Union for playing the role of Santa Claus or Father Christmas. We are just the elves that run around putting things together for the gifts. I would also like to add to that all the products, as I said earlier on, and the artifacts from the TLDCIP project are available. And we are currently in the process of transferring all of that onto the National Open Learning System, which Gerda has spoken about. And while we are waiting for that to be finalized, the colleagues that are on the webinar, as I said earlier, may feel free to contact Precious to see what it is that is available for them to currently use. Gerda, just finally, I see a comment in the chat around short courses that may be offered. So to the colleagues in the panel, are any of the universities offering these as short courses that might be accredited by, for continuing professional development purposes or towards a complete qualification?
Yeah, no, we're not doing it. If I may come in, Michelle, we're not doing it. I don't think Nelson Mandela University is doing it either. That's a whole shift that you need to make, because you do need to get these short courses also accredited, and that's a whole, it's a long process. But I believe it's where we should be going. I think we need to move into that space, make ourselves more flexible, and create opportunities for people who can't sit down for a 3-year program, things like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I think Thomas did indicate that we should strengthen the opportunities for access to all these programs as well. So interesting around that. I see Sharon Blegnort has thanked the Departments of Higher Education and Training and the European Union for the Advanced Dip open source. It's a wonderful Christmas gift and they appreciate it very much. You're more than welcome. Colleagues, so we're hearing all these wonderful stories about the actual implementation of this program from the from the 2 universities and from DHET side. But I wonder how that actually pans out in practice, in reality. We have 2 students, adult students, who are undertaking the Advanced TVT. I'm hoping that they have logged in, Sean, so I'm not too sure. I can't see pictures. Oh, there it is. See Zanele, and I see Mr. Ratogwa in the background there. So, colleagues, I want to introduce Zanele from TUT, as well as Mr. Ratogwa, who is a student from Nelson Mandela University. You, just to indicate a little bit about the background, is that Mr. Ratogwa has completed the Advanced Dip and will be graduating, I think, early next year, Mr. Ratogwa. Mistaken, a virtual graduation, and Zanele has just started the Advanced Dip. So we'll be getting experiences from both sides of the spectrum, and I have a few questions to ask of them. Zanele, could you please give us, our participants, a quick background relating to where you currently are and what your specialization is in the Advanced Dip TVT? And then,
good day, Michelle. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate a lot. My name is Zanele Masumbua. I have a national diploma in tourism from UNISA, and I also have a BTEC that I got from TUT. And I'm currently busy with advanced diploma here at TUT, and I'm also working as a data capturer or a student assistant here at TUT and in the Department of Enrollment and Planning Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Zanele, for that. Mr. Ratogwa?
Greetings, everyone. I'm Mr. Ratogwa TA. I'm currently working at TVET College with National Diploma in Electrical Engineering and Project Management, NQF Level 8 from TUT and VET University, respectively. I am working as a electrical engineering lecturer under NCV program, wherein I'm offering theoretical studies and practical component. At times, I do assist with netted programs. I started with Advanced Dip TVT with Nelson Mandela University since 2019 until this year, 30th of November, wherein I have completed my studies. I'm about to receive a formal graduation on the 17th of December, wherein I'm also intending to pursue my studies with University of Western Cape, studying for PG Deep TVT. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ratogwa. A clear career path open for you. But I'd like Zanele to also share with us where she thinks she will be going to once she's graduated with the Advanced Dip TVT. Please, Zanele.
I would like to see myself becoming a lecturer at any TVET colleges. That's my dream, that's my wish, or being there as any other universities here in South Africa to be a lecturer, lecturing students. Thank you.
Okay, so I have another question to pose to you then. One of the comments that has come up in the chat is a colleague has indicated that he was training 32 years ago, and he was very aware that lecturers did not have sufficient content knowledge to equip them to offer quality teaching and learning. So it's 32 years ago. And currently, in your experience, Mr. Ratogwa, you are a lecturer, so I'm directing this question towards you. What is your perception or your perspective around the concern that currently lecturers might not have sufficient content knowledge?
Basically, I can partially I can agree that we as lecturers at times we do have academic qualification, but however we don't have professional qualification. And as I was studying this advanced deep TVT, I've realized that I need more of the practical and theoretical work to complement each other. I was studying a module which is PVWP 402, which it deals with work integrated learning, wherein I've realized that some of the content that I'm doing is outdated, and we need to complement the current theoretical studies and practical studies by visiting these companies, forging a relationship between the companies, industrial, and the college, wherein we'll share ideas on how best can we equip our students with the relevant necessary skills and knowledge that is much needed in the corporate sector. I think.
Thank you for that honest response, Mr. Ratogwa. I think the message is clear that there should be professional qualifications available for lecturers to upskill themselves. But I also do think that we need to be cognizant of the whole praxis around this. So you have the knowledge, the academic knowledge, but you also need to be strong in terms of the practical knowledge as well. And that's an ongoing issue in teacher education generally. Zanele, my question to you would be around your specialization. So you've done a range of other degrees and qualifications around tourism, which is your specialization. But what do you think the opportunities are for students who want to undertake tourism in their studies? One day when you're a lecturer, what would you say they would be able to do?
Okay, the main reason why I chose tourism is because I already have other qualification, which is National Diploma and a BTech in tourism. Yes, I studied theoretically, and I also need practically as well. And another thing is that I also worked as at Department of Tourism here at TVET, which is where I work with lecturers here at TVET and students doing tourism. And it's another thing is that tourism is it has purposes. It has lots of purposes. For example, it serves as provides benefits to all of us in a way that the value of tourism in our country is the main drivers of employment and the economic growth in our country. That's what I can say to students who like to enroll into this qualification, especially specializing in tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, Zanele. My next question to both of you then would be, you have heard the previous session where our lecturers, our academics have spoken about the implementation, the fantastic ways in which teaching and learning has been conducted through the course of this year, and for you, Mr. Ratogwa, from last year as well. But realistically speaking, how could you comment on, what could you say regarding the teaching and learning that happened for you as a part-time student doing this in an online modality? what was your experience of the way in which the university implemented and offered the program? Mr. Ratogwa?
Oh, thank you so much. Initially, it started as if it was complicated, but however, along the way, we have realized that anything is possible with all the necessary tools that we were using. Remember, Nelson Mandela University was offering this lesson through a digital lesson. And at times, since the beginning of this COVID period, Nelson Mandela offered us 30 gig each and every month for us to be able to access teaching and learning through online system. Then, fortunate enough, the college gave us the necessary much support, wherein we had all the technological gadgets, wherein we can log in through online so that we can be able to participate through on teaching and learning using online system. But however, as students, we ourselves, at times, we were reluctant to adapt to the new reality wherein we are not computer literate, some of us, and we are not keen to adapt to the new reality of the world of technology, wherein it needs all of us to participate. How can we participate? We participate by making sure that we are computer literate and we are willing to utilize this technology. I thank you.
Mr. Ratogwa, for that, and also to see that your university did support you during the period of the COVID pandemic. Zanele, what is your experience of the teaching and learning, particularly because of the COVID pandemic this year, since this is your first year?
Okay, what impressed me or us as students is that our lecturers are trying by all means to support us, to engage with us, with the students, by all means, especially in this pandemic. You know, this pandemic has become nothing but heartbreaking to most of our students, especially since this thing is new. We are learning every day, and you know, they were communicating with us, our lecturers, through telephonically, using emails, and we also have a WhatsApp group where we communicate. Our lecturers, you know, they are there, they're always there for us. You know, you can send WhatsApp now asking something in the group, and then their lecturers are always active. They are there, they are answering the questions. You know, they don't leave us behind. I don't want to say, like, I don't want to lie. They are always there. The university has done so much with the lecturers, and we thank them a lot by doing so. And also the university provide us with data. Yeah, so we are using data for classes, for online classes, and also for downloading study materials. Yeah, yes, that's what I can say. Thank you.
But Zanele, to be provocative, the university has done a lot, and we must give them that and thank Professor Makgato. I think from your experience, Prof. Makgato, you must be ready for a flood of students that want to come to TUT there. But Zanele, the data is one thing, but how do you actually access the data as a student? What have you done to be able to access that data? What devices do you have, and what challenges might you have experienced?
You know, that question, Michelle, it's very important. You know, the challenges that we are facing, you know, even now in this COVID-19 pandemic is because, you know, since the university introduced this online learning, obviously they has to introduce this data to us students. But now the problem is, are we able to use those data or what? That's the question in terms of, do we have laptops? Do we have computers at home? Nothing. We don't have them. We're only using our cell phones, which is we have to download study material, which is not everyone is privileged to use these expensive cell phones that you can download and do everything online. So some of us, you know, it's very a challenge, but we are trying by all means. But the challenge that is the very serious challenge that we are facing, you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Zanele. That is a very realistic response. In terms of the access or the Wi-Fi connection, how has that affected you? Have you been able to log on easily enough for
not
the
not at all. Unfortunately, some of us we're from rural areas, and the network coverage becomes a challenge as well. Like you can get in, but the problem is you won't see anything what is happening in during the online class. You know, at that time you'll end up missing the class and not be able to continue with the rest of the class. You know, in that way, that's another challenge that we are facing at TVET with this online learning.
Yeah, I think it's not just TUT. I think that this is something that is characteristic of all the universities in terms of the experiences during the COVID time. And we're not sure what spaces we will be in next year. From the look of things, our infection rate is increasing. So we probably are going to have to continue in this new modality, and certainly universities will apply their minds to how they can better support the students. So thank you, Zanele, for that. Mr. Ratohwa, I'm very aware of the vocational pedagogy as juxtaposed with the humanizing pedagogy that you were immersed in when you studied at Nelson Mandela University. Could you talk to us about your understanding of humanizing pedagogy and whether or not you think it was appropriate for your studies?
Thanks, Michelle and the team. Remember, previously we used to attend lessons which were mainly depending on banking pedagogy, which was very much disadvantaging to us. But remember, when it comes to this humanizing pedagogy, this is imperative and essential for building academic and social resilient students at the same time or concurrently. And this is the mode of teaching and learning which promote love, respect, sharing, caring, Ubuntu, and so forth. By doing that or by instilling that to the students, this will ease the teaching and learning if, as a lecturer, I'm not in the class, wherein students can learn to interact among themselves, sharing ideas, teaching each other, and so forth. And remember, by doing this, this does not evolve around the lecture. Students must learn to be responsible and accountability at the very same time. This is one of the best module that we need to implement. Since, like what you have said, this is not the end of the COVID period. Even next year it will be there, wherein this is where students can form their own lessons. It can either be in any social platform or online platform where they can interact and share ideas, applying this humanizing pedagogy. And the lecturers must believe and understand that they need to respect the students, and students need to respect lecturers. And it doesn't necessarily mean that students will be evaluated or gauged in terms of the standardized or standardized marking guideline. We need to assess and understand their own ideas, I think.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ratokwa. Your reference to Paulo Freire's concept of banking education is very important. The time where lecturers and teachers simply regarded their students as empty vessels to be filled with all this knowledge is long over. We need to be developed in our own critical thinking skills, and also in order for learning to be integrated within our own very beings, for us to understand how to teach better, etc., we have to participate in our lectures. There must be active engagement, etc. So I thank you for that. My second last question is around assessment, a very important component for teaching and learning. So within your two universities, could you quickly comment on how assessment was undertaken and whether it was a challenging experience for you or not? Zanele?
What I can say is, it was really a challenging experience. Yes, because of this digital modality, university might be there to assist, but students sometimes, students are students. They must be patient with us, and yeah, it was very something like another experience because it's a new course. We are adapting to it. It's new.
Yes. And were you able to complete your assessments?
Yes, we were able to complete our assessment through our lecturers. Yes, they help us a lot. They were very keen in, like, for us to complete the assessment, the test and the assignments as well, the classes. They were there. Yes, we were participating a lot.
So Zanele, there's a comment here that's related to you. Nosipo says that she thinks that you have well experience in terms of office administration, and a previous comment said that they would suggest you undertake office administration as your specialization because that's sorely needed in the industry. We know that you're specializing in tourism. So what comment can you make to the two colleagues in the chat room around their suggestion of admin?
What I can say is I can consider them both, tourism and also office. I also like office work and also tourism since I have qualifications, and also administrative work since I have experience as well. So I'll consider them both. So I'll see which path is the simplest way to go afterward.
Yeah. I think that actually continue with tourism, and because you have office administration, you open up your own tourism company and you'll know how to manage your office and train your people. So that's a great one. But Nosipo has asked about your practical exposure in the tourism industry. She says that students have challenges entering the tourism industry because of lack of placement. So Prof. Mkhato might be able to assist in that respect, as well as Neville. It's industry placements for tourism practicals.
Maybe just to come in there, in our case, as I said, we are still planning on a placement, not only in tourism, in all that students will be specializing in.
Yes.
So that part, we partner with colleges to see their current partners, and then we work together. In our MOU with the colleges, we're busy with how are we going to help the students to enter into their partnership in the industry to do well, including tourism. I think I can say that now.
Thank you so much for Prof. I think that is definitely the way to go to ensure that we have quality teaching and learning in this particular space. My last question to Zanele and Mrs. Ratagwo is, there might be people within the webinar who know prospective students or who are prospective students. What would be your closing statement to such students in terms of the Advanced TVET?
Okay, my advice to them, Michelle, is that everyone who is specializing in any field of study, for example, HR, accounting, marketing, who wish to see themselves as lecturing at colleges, TVET colleges, is that they can enroll for this course. It's a really interesting course. It's a challenging one, but at the end of the day, I think the job opportunities will open for lots of us, since Prof and other experts have said earlier that they are trying by all means to implement that. We also get practical ways in order for us to continue, not only theoretically, but also practical way. So, and also challenges, they must just expect lots and lots of challenges in the industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Zanele. Much appreciated. Mr. Rakhotwa, we'll give you the last word on this before we close.
Thanks, colleagues. To my fellow brothers and sisters, indeed, studying is difficult, but as of this advanced deep TVET with Nelson Mandela University indeed is challenging. However, it promotes critical thinking, wherein you need to think out of the box. You don't just need to go study without thinking some extra ideas, wherein you need to bring them in. And it also embrace the fourth industrial revolution, wherein you will be interacting through this technological system, wherein it's very much imperative on our normal days of today. But I can say that students, let us feel free, let us go there. Nelson Mandela is there. They will assist you in any case, because at sometimes they can see that they have to practice a humanizing pedagogy, wherein they will take them from nothing to be better students, I think.
So there we have it, very complimentary compliments and statements to the two universities that are currently implementing. I also would like to say that the Central Cape Peninsula University of Technology has received accreditation for this diploma, and according to Dr. Melanie Sadek, they will be offering the diploma next year. With that then, colleagues, that ends my stint on the webinar in terms of chairing and facilitating. And I pass over to my colleague, Dr. Morgan Maputa, who is a Deputy Director also in the Teacher Education Directorate at DHET. His particular responsibility is to ensure that the adult and community education and training component of the TLDCIP is successfully delivered, and that we reach all our indicators set by the European Union. So, Dr. Maputa, I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. It's so interesting.
Morgan, your mic is off, Morgan. Morgan, please unmute yourself. Morgan, please unmute. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let me indicate that it is so amazing to have a webinar of this nature, where we have a dialogue as relevant stakeholders in education to talk about the offering of the new qualification, the Advanced Diploma TVET, which is actually very relevant to the current situation in the country. So as we are moving to the last session, which is session 3 of our webinar, we are moving to the department side of the story. This morning, we heard about the views from the European Union. We had the views from the academics, the students, and how the college lecturer education project is being coordinated within the teacher education directorate in the Department of Higher Education and Training. So for now, we are shifting towards the vocational education branch in the department, wherein we will hear a voice from Mr. Selosetusha. Colleagues, allow me to present to you Mr. Selosetusha, who plays a significant role in the Department of Higher Education and Training as a Director for Lecturer Development and Support within the Vocational Education branch. Mr. Selosetusha will unpack issues pertaining to continuing professional development for the TVET lecturers. Mr. Selosetusha, I'm handing over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, colleagues. It's really a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I'm trying to share my presentation. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. Okay, can you see it now? Colleagues, all right, let me start sharing again so that I can share the document. Okay. Colleagues, I'm trying to share my document. I don't see it coming on. But let me indicate that the presenters who went before me have presented quite a lot of what I thought, what I planned to present. My main focus would then be on on presenting the progress that have been achieved in our CPD. I seem not to be able to share my screen, but allow me just to talk through it. At one stage, we'll have to send it through so that it can be shared with our members. Colleagues, the department had focused a lot on, trying to systematize the CPD, that is continuing professional development. We have worked a lot with, the UWC and DHET Education Services and other, relevant partners in trying to get the CPD system to be, professionalized. To be systematized. We held a conference in 2018 due to the fact that there were huge gaps that were realized in the system, and we really wanted to talk to those gaps with all the relevant stakeholders, so that we are able to find each other and to make sure that we are able to develop what is relevant. The first steps that we took was after the conference, we appoint through UWC and ETDPC, we appointed DHET Services to conduct a research on a continuing professional development. The research has been completed and it should be published soon. Also, the DHET has also developed a CPD framework for us, which also has to be, get ministerial approval, published, and then implemented. So we are looking at, getting the final approvals by March 2021 and looking at the final implementation around, by June 2021. What is of critical importance, colleagues, is that there are quite a number of issues that we need to try to address. First of all, the research that the department does on annual basis regarding, or the survey that the department does regarding the qualifications of lecturers. The last one that was presented was actually of 2016, but published in 2018. It came up with about 4 categories of our lecturers, basically. Those who are unqualified, those who are academically qualified but professional and qualified, those who are academically and professionally qualified as school teachers, and those who are academically and professionally qualified as lecturers. And the indication is that 25.8% of the lecturers who responded, some were undefined and some were totally unqualified, were actually unqualified, and that's a huge figure. Those who are academically qualified but professionally unqualified were around 36.3%. Those who are qualified as and professionally and academically as school teachers were about 33.1%, and only 4.8% were qualified as for the sector. Then that means that if we have to implement CPD to try and turn around this situation, including the professional qualifications, we then realize that there's a high need to expose all our lecturers, basically all our lecturers, to the industries for experiential learning and for practical learning. We also, for professional basis, we have to expose all the unqualified and underqualified, including those who are qualified as school teachers, to the professional side of the TVET colleges, and that's where qualifications like the Advanced Diploma TVT came into being. Those who are qualified for the sector, they need more of exposure in terms of industry and experiential learning, including CPD, where they can get points. Now the question is, where are we with the CPD? In the research work, we had, as the department, identified that the South African Council for Educators can play a huge role, and as Wayne has indicated, that it seems that they are on steroids. The realization is that with
Cello, I'm sorry, Cello, to intervene, but we request that you use the presentation mode, as we cannot see the slides in the current mode.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to share.
It is showing, but we are not. Yeah.
Or should I do it on the two screens rather? Is it showing on your side?
It is, but if you just press presentation, start the presentation, then it would be one slide at a time rather than the panel on the side, if you can. Otherwise.
Okay, I don't see start the presentation. Okay. It hits me now. Should I? Let me firstly stop sharing.
It's okay. You may continue. We'll always send the presentation.
Okay.
Presentations to people. Yeah.
Afterwards. Okay. Yeah, colleagues, as I've indicated, we had earlier agreed that SAIS is the one that needs, to be taken up, and the former minister said endorsed that SAIS should be, the professional body and the one that will host CPD for the TVET colleges. Though there were some few questions regarding its capacity and other things, and together with SAIS, we are working on that. We just have to get our minister's final approval or final ratification on the matter so that we can then proceed with SAIS. Now, moving on to the implementation of the qualifications, the professional qualifications. I think colleagues have said a lot. I'm not going to repeat what Elena said regarding NMU. One would say the success is so great and we're happy for that. However, UWC was the first to implement its accredited qualification in 2017, and already they have got 8 graduates. And we believe that this year, or by the end of this year, they will also be graduating some more. The numbers in TUT has got about 56, according to Dr. Professor Makato, and they are doing well. But recently, we have allocated another college to TUT so that TUT can then take care of that college, and we believe they will do a great job there. The University of Pretoria has developed a PG DIP for TVET Management and Leadership, which was accredited in 2018. Last year, we had enrolled about 30, but only 29 managed to proceed. We are glad to indicate that 27 have passed very well, a good number of them with quite a number of distinctions. And the last 2 who are remaining were actually, doing some rewriting and of exams. And yeah, we hope they will also qualify for graduation. But we have then since selected 31 participants for the next cohort, which starts next year. UP has also got its Advanced Diploma TVT accredited, and it will roll it out next year. There are about 6 now. If I put in CPUT, there will be 7 universities that will be rolling out their advanced TVT in 2021, and that's good news. The other 4 universities will roll their deep TVT and advanced TVT out in 2022. But UNISA as well, which is not part of the 14, had a master's program with lecturers, and they ran it at Majuba, and apparently in Karatsibande as well, they are starting to run, if I'm correct. Now, on Saturday, the 11th of December, they will be graduating about 13 lecturers with their master's program. So that is good progress in relation to where we were in 2018, while the qualifications had been developed in 2013. There are a lot of, CPD initiatives that are underway. I would just like to illustrate with a few examples. I'm not going to speak to all of them. The GIZ, for instance, which is a German organization, that manages, German funding program or projects in South Africa and other countries, helped us to capacitate over 200 lecturers in engineering-related courses. They assisted the department to establish the dual system pilot project in 4 colleges, now lately 5 colleges. They also assisted in establishing the centers of specialization, which rolled out 13 trades in 23 colleges, and also giving more of practical experience. Recently, together we have developed remote teaching and learning short courses, which have got 4 modules and then trained about 100 participants. But due to the length of the course, which was 8 weeks, and the high pressure in terms of this period of time, quite a number of lecturers dropped out. Also, we rolled out a project-based lecturer capacity building program with 20 electrical and plumbing lecturers, and we are looking at rolling it out with 80 starting early January next year. With GIZ, we are also, and the department, we are speaking about institutionalizing these short courses with universities in South Africa, partnering with universities in Germany. But we are, at the initial stages of discussions and consultations with the various universities, especially the 14 universities. I wanted to show you, part of the program. I mean, the slides. I'm not sure if you see, this one, which deals with some career pathing. It shows a 3-step. There's a difference between our framework and the German framework, and we are trying to say we should follow our framework because the 2 systems are very different. But this then relates to the real life industry project, which has got about 5 modules and runs over 8 weeks, and it is also very much realistic. It looks like more like what Professor Hugo showed with the live, teaching of or online teaching and so on. So, but it's more practical because live situations are being taken as if somebody is working for industry, solutions are developed and so on. We'll explain more at a later stage on this to the colleges. But there's also a development bank, KfW, from Germany. Together with the department and Ekurhuleni East TVET College, we are finally establishing, or we have established a lecturer development center. Approvals have been secured and the project steering committee has been set up, and work needs to start soon. But the KfW, in collaboration with the University of Stuttgart, also piloted a training of mechanical and electrical lecturers through what they call the Train Me project in 2019, and it will be ending in 2021, around June. However, in 2019, we trained about 20 lecturers, of whom 19 were graduated by the end of November last year. 10 of those 19 have been trained as master trainers now. This means that we have got multipliers who will help sustain the project even beyond the expiry of this project. We have enrolled 40 lecturers who will start with the Train Me project on the 12th of January, and as I said, to the end of May, early June. So the project is also very 4IR related, and it is very important that we understand this. I'm now going to move over to what are the other South African kind of interventions that were there. Cisco was very instrumental in training quite a number of our lecturers. 163 were trained in Cisco connectivity network programs and computer practice. About 1,300 lecturers were trained, or LO and ICT lecturers were trained in 4IR related courses like Internet of Things and cybersecurity. And 13 colleges have been launched as Cisco academies. SACPO, that is the principal's organization, also plays a huge role because they have also rolled out digital literacy courses, and over 200 lecturers and a total of 1,000 lecturers and students were trained in digital literacy between May and August 2020. And recently, the minister has launched the SACPO Huawei collaboration, and over 100 lecturers are already under training and will, get internationally accredited Huawei certificates or qualifications. SACPO has also entered into a partnership with the Chinese Cultural and International Education and Exchange Center, and they are also trying to establish a lecturer training center focusing on 4IR and entrepreneurship. The British Council recently, while they had other programs that they ran with the department previously, as of last year, December, and this year, we trained about 100 lecturers on core skills, very interactive program, and our lecturers were very hyped with that. But we are going to maybe give about 70 of them certificates for completing the program successfully. We have to acknowledge that TVET colleges are doing a lot in their own right to promote and enhance CPD for our lecturers, either through in-house training or they then procure services. What the department does, it gives the TVET colleges skills levy funds, and they use such funds. But the colleges also budget for training and development, and they also are encouraged and they participate in exposing our lecturers for work integrated learning in various industries. Yes, this is a difficult one, and because it's a difficult one, we have recently, sought the assistance of the ministerial industry envoy, Mr. Ngaba Ngandela, and together we are developing a strategy that we can, use to get, industry fully involved in this. The department has what we call a lecturer support system through which, lecturers can be developed, and that is very interactive as well, and lecturers are developing through that. However, we have been a little bit slow in developing new packages, but we will, keep up the pace now. There are other various, interventions like SETAs coming into play. For instance, the ETDPC and MER-SETA, each funded about 10 colleges now to establish 4IR centers of excellence. And this is a new project. It will be a 3 to 5 year project, and we would like to see our colleges, graduating into 4IR centers of excellence, which will then help our lecturers to develop further. Both the SETAs are funding the NMU for the Advanced Diploma TVT as well, and they are funding various other universities or students in various other universities for that. MER-SETA has also partnered with the Chinese Cultural Center for exchange programs for lecturers and students. And the ETDPC had sponsored the Will for Lecturers in 2014. A research was done by Saki, but it has also funded the one that was the framework that was developed by the CPUT. So the SETAs are participating a lot in our lecturer development. So last but not least, what is our way forward? From where we are in terms of this background that I've given, because it is not only what I've mentioned that is happening. There's a lot that is happening on the ground, but we acknowledge that there's still a lot that should be done, particularly putting in place relevant policies and frameworks so that colleges can then follow suit and are able to do that. What we need as a way forward, for instance, is to ensure that we develop and finalize the framework for lecturer workplace in industry. As I indicated, maybe by next year we should be done with it. We should continue to strengthen management and lecturer development through professional qualifications and also through CPD projects. Now we have to work very hard to ensure that together with SAIS, we set up that CPD system and ensure that it runs fully. It is not, an easy feat, but we are looking at 2023 to get it fully, implemented. We also want to scale up, training of lecturers in the 21st century skills, particularly around 4IR, remote and blended learning. And we are working very closely here with our NORS unit to ensure that, whatever is developed can also be shared on the open education resources, and we can then move faster forward. We have also embedded CPD processes in what we are currently calling public colleges administrative measures, which were formerly known as personnel administrative measures, with the view that lecturers will be obligated to undergo a CPD. But we are aware that currently the CPD system is not running, so it might not, entice lecturers to participate fully in that. But as soon as it is running fully, where they will get points, we'll then make sure that they participate through that. We are really pleased that all universities are geared up to now taking, the TVET space and qualifications very seriously and helping to develop the TVET relevant and suitable qualifications for our lecturers so that our students and our youth can benefit. Thank you very much. Dr. Maputa, can you unmute yourself maybe?
Okay. Thanks so much, Mr. Setusha, for the interesting presentation on the continuing professional development for lecturers. Just to highlight a few from your presentation, we have picked up the progress made so far in the TVET sector, and also the issue of the findings from the lecturer qualification profiles, wherein you highlighted the need and the relevance and appropriateness for the advanced TVET for the sector. And you have also touched on a number of projects that are on in ensuring that the TVET sector is in full swing when coming to professionalization of lecturers. From my side, I'm not picking up any questions that many participants have for your side. I'm not sure if there's anything from the participants. It appears there are no questions emerging from the floor. And in the absence of questions, then I would assume that we will be moving to the next presentation in this session 3, which is a presentation on the JOVA set. So a JOVA set is actually a product of the CLEP project from the University of the Western Cape, wherein a project on the implementation of a general project is being implemented. So now I will allow Prof. Papir to have a presentation on this JOVA set, which I hope it is an interesting topic for the academics in terms of the research publications. I hope there's a lot that will be coming for publications next year in 2021 as academics and students will be reflecting on how the COVID-19 has impacted on their teaching and learning and their curriculum implementation, their assessment, and the way in which research was done under this COVID-19 pandemic. So Prof. Papir is actually the director of the Institute for Post-School Studies at the University of the Western Cape, and she plays a significant role in JOVA set as the editor-in-chief. For now, I will hand over to you, Prof.
Thanks so much, Morgan. And thank you to all our participants for the very interesting discussions that we've just heard. Can I just add that I also love your shirt, Morgan. Very, very nice. So the Journal of Vocational Adult and Continuing Education and Training, bit of a mouthful, is also one of the projects that have been supported by the DHET European Union Partnership. And it plays a really important role in the vocational space because, as we've just heard this morning, the various qualifications in the new gazetted qualifications for TVET college lecturers present quite a long pathway for college lecturers, from initial teacher training to post-professional training, and then also hopefully that many of the qualified lecturers will move on into a research pathway so that we can actually begin to start adding to the knowledge base, our local knowledge base of TVET in the South, and so that we have something to contribute to the broader debates out there, because we've always tended to defer to our European, East European, Northern counterparts in TVET, and we haven't really staked our own claim about the knowledge that we find here in our context. So I think about three and a half years ago, when we looked at what was happening in the TVET college space and all the work that had been done in the last 15 or 20 years around all the policy change, the attempts at implementation, we found very little in the way of receptive vehicles to publish some of that work. And so the idea was born to create an academic space for work that's been done in TVET that would be rigorous, that would be worth sharing with a broader TVET community. And so we secured a small seed grant to get a feasibility study, to scope the area, to see what journals were out there in which one could publish. And the scoping report found that indeed there was quite a big gap in the area of vocational education as well as in adult education for dedicated work and research in this area. And so the new Journal of Vocational Education, new Journal of Vocational Adult and Continuing Education and Training was born with its first publication in 2018. That's the cover. I think many of you in this audience would have had the opportunity to look at it. This was the first volume in 2018. We argued that the creation of such a platform was not only critical for the African continent, but was essential to building and strengthening that intellectual voice of the global South within the international debates. We also wanted to build new scholarship in TVET and support our new scholars in this field, especially those who were acquiring all of these qualifications and were going on a research pathway as well. So we wanted to encourage critical engagement with the field, and that the voices and the experiences of especially our practitioners in these settings should be heard, so that they could be seen to reflect on practice that makes a scholarly contribution to the field. Of course, the credibility of such an academic journal depends on its community of peers, and here we had to reach out to our national and international networks for the support, because it needs a very strong pool of editorial board members as well as peer reviewers, because every article in the journal is peer reviewed in a double-blind process by 2 reviewers, and only after that process of engagement between reviewer and author does the article get published. We were very gratified that all our university partners, college partners, who were essential to getting this journal off the ground, were very willing to entertain that space and that new addition, this new kid on the block. And our view was that we should use conferences, academic events, research projects, and other forums that could advocate the journal, could solicit good articles, could advise researchers that they should consider publishing once they'd gathered their data and so forth. And we have at the moment a very strong network of support, both in the editorial committee and in the peer review panels. We took the decision early on that the journal would not be income generating and wouldn't charge for publication fees. And so the first issue in 2018, we got good support from the Mercator we were able to hold a very good launch conference, in which a lot of excellent papers on TVET and the emerging research was shared. And it was called The Revitalization of TVET in Africa, from Policy to Practice. And some very good presentations. For those of you who haven't had copies of the journal, there is an online version where you can read up on the back copies as well. We're very grateful for the support of the EU-funded DHET TLDCIP, and we think that the Java set was taken forward significantly with the support of that project, because a journal of this nature needs administration support, needs production support, and we realized that we didn't only want to have an online version, but that in this emerging journal, we needed to have a print copy that people could actually see and value their contributions in the print. We held a very good subsequent adult education conference, which became a special issue on access barriers and success for adult learners, rethinking equity and social justice in the post-school sector. That was the second special issue. And then the third issue was published also in 2019, was focused on broader TVET matters. As I said, every article had to be peer-reviewed and goes through an extensive editing process. Subsequently, the EU DHET project enabled us to work on refining the JavaSet website and distributing the hard copies across the country. It's now also on the Sabernet platform, and we are eagerly awaiting feedback from the DHET, the relevant branch in the DHET that deals with accreditation of the journal, because there is quite a process involved in accrediting. You have to have had 3 published copies prior to your application for accreditation, and we have reached that point, and so all our documentation has been submitted, and we are looking forward very much to receiving accreditation, because that really gives an incentive to academics to publish in it in terms of the system that we have in our country around academic journals. So we're very grateful to our peer reviewers, all of you, many of you are in this group perhaps, academics at other universities who have played such an important role, and we appreciate it very greatly. So we look forward to the journal going from strength to strength and becoming a valued part of our TVET and adult education landscape in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Prof. And thanks so much for the update in terms of the progress made so far in the Jova set. And it's so encouraging and so inspiring to learn that now the TVET and the CET sector has got a conducive space for the publication of articles in an attempt to close the gap that has been existing for so long, since the two sectors have been neglected. So for now, I'm also not picking up any questions related to Prof's presentation on the Jova set from the participants. I hope participants will have a lot to ask in relation to the Jova set. This is the chance for the participants for questions. Anything from the floor? I'm also not picking up anything from the participants. And the absence of participants as questions, I will move on to the last item on the agenda, which will be the closing comments by the father of the TLDCIP, Dr. Green. Dr. Green, is the Chief Director of the Teaching, Learning and Research Development within the University Branch at the Department of Higher Education and Training. And for now, I'll hand over to you, sir.
Thanks very much, Morgan, and thanks to everyone who's been participating, I think, in this fascinating webinar today. I think it really does justice to the notion of the importance of TVET education in the development trajectory of the country going forward. I think in terms of the CLEP project, and particularly the TVET focus within it, good progress has been made in developing the qualification programs based on the policy on professional qualifications for lecturers in technical and vocational education and training, particularly the Advanced Diploma in Technical and Vocational Teaching, and in the materials to support delivery. The universities that have put up their hands to become involved, the 14 universities, must be highly commended. So to all the partners, the TVET colleges, industry who have come on board, the MERCETA who has been strongly behind the qualification at UWC, and the ETWCETA who has been supporting the qualification at Nelson Mandela. But clearly we do need many more partners to engage in the successful delivery of these qualifications. And I think we're using this platform to advocate and to invite participation across the South African sector to support, I think, this really important endeavor. We have made good progress in entrenching a TVET education and TVET lecturer education footprint in universities, including building staff and research capacity. As we've just heard, the Journal for Vocational Education and Training has grown from strength to strength. And I think it's poised for full accreditation quite soon, and poised to become the voice of the research community in TVET, and the vehicle through which we disseminate new knowledge and take the sector forward. It all starts with the teacher. Nowhere has this come to the fore than during the current COVID-19 crisis, where we are navigating a really different way of teaching and learning, where a rapid shifts to technology-based teaching and learning, we've recognized cannot happen productively in the absence of teacher-mediated learning. So technology-based learning and teacher-mediated learning are not polar opposites. In fact, they're complementary and have to go together. And I think that must be our stance going forward. Our teachers have to be technologically astute, but they have to retain the ability to successfully mediate learning, even in technology-based environments. Whilst much has been achieved, I think there's still much more to be done. We have to ensure that the qualification offerings that we are developing are offered on a wide enough scale to reach all who require access to them. Marketing is important, and we invite the universities to now aggressively market these qualifications in the sector so that they become much more visible and that people in the sector are aware of them and aware of the possibilities of enrolling in them. One of the things that have impacted on the ability to market is that legally, no university can market until a program is fully accredited by the Council on Higher Education. We now have a number that have been accredited, and those universities are in a position to embark on intensive marketing strategies. We have to be able to broaden the range of qualifications beyond the Advanced Diploma. The Advanced Diploma is for a particular group of lecturers, those who have undergraduate qualifications in place at present and need a professional capping qualification. It's the equivalent of the postgraduate certificate in education that's offered for school teachers. We need the other pathways to also be activated. The Bachelor of Education in TVET, the Advanced Certificate in TVET, the Advanced Diploma in TVET Education, which is a continuing professional development qualification, the PG DIPS, and so on and so on, so that we have a qualification portfolio that addresses the needs of all the lecturers in the system. We have to support lecturer and aspirant lecturer access to these qualifications, and that's funding. It's going to be hard for lecturers to access qualifications in the absence of funding, and we have to make that funding possibility widely available. We have to look beyond the higher education qualifications, because the higher education institutions can only do so much. What about the lecturers that are focused on the development of practical work-based skills, those artisans in the TVET colleges, who would find it very difficult to access a higher education qualification if they hold a trade certificate and actually navigate that qualification successfully? So we have to embark on a partnership with the QCTO for the development of occupational type lecturer qualifications that address the needs of other groupings in the university. In the colleges. It's a priority. We have to build trilateral relations between universities, TVET colleges, and industry. It's going to be of no value pointing to the DHET to try and activate industry partnerships. Likewise, it's going to be of no value if the TVET colleges complain that they are not being taken on board. This is a three-way process, and everyone has to be proactive in engaging. So we have to be developing these tripartite partnerships that enable the different things to happen. And I'm encouraging everyone not to point simply to the DHET to stimulate this. The DHET does play a role, yes, but we have to also, in our spaces and in our localities, engage in setting up these partnerships so we can tap into the potential they offer. We have to embrace the technological innovation that has come to the fore in recent times. Blended learning is no longer a choice, it's a necessity. And so we have to use the new technologies to deliver our qualifications, but more importantly, to develop the ability of teachers on those qualifications to use blended modalities in their own teaching and learning. And then the last point that I want to make is that we have to create alignment between qualifications-based development and short course CPD, so that the two talk to each other much more effectively. And we have recognition of CPD into qualifications. And that's going to require quite strong conversations around RPL and credit accumulation and transfer. In closing, I want to thank the Mail and Guardian for partnering with DHET in this, I think, really important webinar. My DHET colleagues for their hard work with the Mail and Guardian behind the scenes to enable it to happen. Our university and TVET college colleagues for strong collaboration in the space. And I think very importantly, to thank the EU for their strong support of education development generally over the years since the demise of apartheid, and particularly in relation to their support for teacher education and development. And long may the partnership last. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Witi, for those closing comments. Colleagues, I want to close on my side by saying, by reiterating what Witi said around appreciation for the universities that are implementing these programs. It's been above and beyond your call of duty, and I would like to show appreciation for one person in particular, and that is Professor Andre van der Bijl from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. His wealth of experience, his academic rigor, his passion for TVET is known across the sector, and we remember him. In terms of that, I don't know if other colleagues do know that Andre passed on, and it was his wish that the TVET project at CPUT is successful And thank you to Melanie and other colleagues at CPUT for assisting him in this. The project has indeed been successful, and the Advanced Dip TVT will be implemented at CPUT next year. And I do hope that that would be something that is will remain forever as Andre's input into this particular sector. Thank you very much, Mail and Guardian. Thank you, participants. Stay well.